What's going on, fellow A-plusers? It's your host, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, television, and movie news, streaming live for you guys today over on our YouTube page. You can also catch us on Facebook Live today, as well as Twitch for you gamers. And of course, after this particular video ends, you can catch us wherever you listen to your audio podcast. That's right, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to them, you can definitely find this episode after we wrap up. But we've got 6 main topics for you guys today. We're going to be diving into a ton of Marvel news as Deadpool 3 gets a little bit of an update. We're going to be diving into the Aquaman 2 trailer, giving you guys a little bit of a review. And is Dave Bautista finally going to be cast for Gears of War, plus much more? Stay tuned for a new episode of Hero Report. Let's go. Happy Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of A-Plus Hero Report. As you can see, we got my boy Stuart in the house today to certainly join us. Unfortunately, could not be joined by Indy. Hopefully, he'll be able to join us sometime next weekend, man. But we got a pretty stacked episode. I'm really looking forward to breaking down these topics with you guys. We're going to be diving into some honorable mentions and, of course, your live viewer questions at the end of the episode. If you would like to submit a live viewer question, feel free to go over to our YouTube page, click on that community tab, and there is a post for live viewer questions. You can go ahead and submit them down below if you'd like, and we'll get to them at the end of the show. But what's up going on, Stuart? Good to see you, buddy. How's your week been, man?
My week's been great. Last night sucked though, because I don't know if you remember from last week, but when I had like 2 shelves up here.
I was actually wondering what happened to them.
Yeah, so one of them, it turned out this happened in the middle of the night. I was playing Baldur's Gate 3, and my girlfriend was like sleeping in the bed when suddenly just one of them collapsed, and it fell on the other one, which caused that one to collapse. Thankfully, nothing like on those shelves broke, but the shelves themselves are completely useless now. Actually, that is a lie. The 2 Power Ranger helmets I had on there are completely cracked now, so that sucks.
Stuart, the weight of your nerddom broke the shelves. Incredible.
Yeah, because like specifically the Rebirth comic books, the trade paperback ones, they are heavy.
I'm sure they are.
So I gotta not get the cheap. That's my own fault for getting the really cheap material. Because of course I went for IKEA and then went for the cheapest option off of IKEA. So I will not do that in the future. I'm going to go for a much more high quality shelf that is a lot more durable, so that doesn't hopefully happen again.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you. Thank you for the story. I had no idea. I was wondering what happened to your background. I was like, man, you had this gorgeous bookshelf back there with all these cool things. But yeah, no more IKEA bookshelves for you, Stuart.
Yeah, as fun as they are to put together.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see who's in the live chat with us today. And look, guys, if you're in the live chat, feel free to certainly give any of your thoughts throughout this particular week's episode, any topics we discuss. At the end of the day, these are just simply our A-plus opinions. We always want to know yours. So certainly feel free to chime in. Let us know what you guys think about certain topics that we discuss. And look, if you want to support the channel monetarily, you can go ahead and do so with some super chats, super stickers as well. If you were to submit a super chat, we'll stop what we're doing. We'll get right to your comment, bring you right up live on air, and certainly address your topic. And if you want to help us out in a free manner, if you can't help us out monetarily, that's more than fine. Hit that like button. Please share these videos. Talk to your homeboys, homegirls about A-Plus Hero Report. Let them know about us, and certainly invite them to check out an episode from time to time. But let's give some shout outs to people that are joining us live today. We got Enrique Perez in the house with the reminder, Hasbro PulseCon 2023 is in 5 days, September 29th. You know, surprisingly, I did not take that day off of work. I actually took off the 29th so I can binge Cosmic Fury, baby. But I definitely will be keeping a close eye on Hasbro Pulse. Again, that's February 22nd. Melissa Benoist is in the house. Well, not really, but good old AJ loves his bacon and sushi. What's going on, man? The most talented man in the world, I suck my own balls, is here today. We got Marcelino Vasquez in here. Says he just watched the first season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it was fine, but didn't wow me. Can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually enjoyed God Friended Me over more than Buffy. I am kind of curious if you've ever checked out the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. I feel like that's an oldie but goodie. I still love that movie, Stuart.
That movie's hella fun. But yeah, no, you gotta get to season 2. That's when the show gets really, really good.
Mhm. Thanks for letting us know. I don't know if I was ever a Buffy stan like that. If I watched the series, I remember it being huge. I don't know if I've ever checked it out for myself though.
Oh, dude, that was like when I was in middle school, that was like my favorite show. Like Buffy
For
and
sure. And
Angel
an
side by
Angel,
side.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, they definitely had their moment in the sun for sure, when it comes to pop culture. Datila in the house as always. We got JB says, "What?" I feel like it's been a minute, JB. So it's good to certainly see you around these parts again. And good old Ram Jam in the house. Melissa Benoit says, "You didn't say cosmic knights fight for your rights." You happy now? You happy? JB was a big fan of Buffy.
Hell yes.
Um, and then Marcelino says, "I heard that the Buffy movie is something that Buffy fans want to forget." Really? Well, I
Well,
guess I guess I can kind of see that. I mean, they do feel like I don't want to say two completely different things, but I never saw them as connected. But yeah, tell me more, Stuart.
the movie is just a full on comedy, which is fine. It's a funny comedy like with vampires. I personally enjoyed it, but the show is like more of a comedy drama like kind of series, which the movie didn't really have that much of like the kind of high school drama that the show covers. What was really good about the show is that sometimes you would have a mixture of both like metaphorical drama situations where like the monster of the week was like for just something that everyone deals with in high school. And then other times it would just like not even go with the metaphor. You just straight up have her deal with like real life drama. And there was one episode that like a lot of people love where it was like her mom just, passes away and
Mm.
nothing like demonic that caused it. There was nothing supernatural. She just died from sickness. And the whole episode is just like there's nothing that happens, in terms of the supernatural or anything like that. It's just her and her friends, like just in shock of like, losing someone very close that was very close to them. So the show can really like be all over the place, but in like a really good way.
And shout out to the 10 people watching us live today. We got 8 people watching us over on YouTube. Shout out to you guys. One over on Facebook and one over on Twitch as well. So definitely, if you feel comfortable, make your presence known in the live chat, guys. We definitely would love to talk with you guys as well. But Stuart, you know what? Let's go ahead and start kicking off this show, man. Let's go ahead and begin with some honorable mentions. I gotta say, the audio is killing me. That's a really loud, really loud segment. It gets me all the time. But let's go ahead and get into some honorable mentions. For those of you new to the channel, honorable mentions, topics that we felt you certainly deserve to at least know about, but didn't quite make the cut in order to become part of our top 6 to certainly talk about today. I think we might even have one additional topic that might get brought up in our live viewer questions later as well. But Stuart, any honorable mentions for us today?
None that I can think of this week.
Let me see. Dante says, "Let me talk to you." Because I got a couple for sure. One of those being, let me go ahead and bring this up. Which should I start off with? One Piece. For those of you who have been checking out the series over on Netflix, I still have not gotten to this, Stuart. I know Indy and John over from Anime Assembled, they have gotten an opportunity to check it out. I'm expecting a season review for them, hopefully sometime this week for One Piece. I would like to get it up on the channel. But for those of you who have loved One Piece, believe it or not, a season 2 has in fact been announced. I know last week I think they mentioned the idea that season 2 scripts were ready to go, but due to the strike, they really couldn't begin anything. But this past week over on Facebook, we did get ourselves a season 2 announcement from the creator of One Piece. So plenty more adventures to go. And I believe in one of the articles, believe it or not, Stuart, that I wind up reading, talking about, how long, like if you had your way, how many seasons of One Piece would we get? And the creators talked about the idea that they've got an idea for 12 seasons. 12 seasons. And I'm
Wow.
like, look, if you were on any other streaming service besides Netflix, 12 might actually work. But considering how quickly Netflix likes to remove a lot of their series, we'll see if they get to 12. But I think they said a safe bet at least 6, but they have enough material for 12. So let's see if they
Mhm.
can at least get to 6. You think there's a chance One Piece makes it to 6 seasons at least?
6 seasons is a possibility. It depends on, what Netflix looks like after the strike goes on. But it is possible because Cobra Kai just got to, or it hasn't gotten there yet, but it's about to get to its
I
6th
guess
season, if
that's
I remember
true.
correctly.
Yeah.
So it's possible. I really hope. I guess if we really want to see it happen, just make sure we're spreading the word about how awesome the show is, and Adam needs to watch it. If we don't get season 6, it's Adam's fault, clearly.
Oh man, you know what? Putting all the, you know what? Look, if it doesn't get to season 6, you could put the blame on me, guys, because I am one of those people. I've never read the manga, I've never seen the anime. People have been telling me for years I got to check it out, and after seeing the trailers for this, I've been super pumped for it. So I definitely want to explore and check it out. So I will go ahead and make it an issue that this week I will at least watch the first episode. So we'll see how that goes. But yes, season 2 of One Piece is announced.
And I
Um,
think I've mentioned this before, but this is someone who hasn't read the manga or seen the anime. I thought the show was fantastic.
yeah, I hear that from a lot of people too. Even if you aren't familiar with the source material, you will absolutely love it. So yeah, definitely. I'm glad they were able to reach out to wider audiences than just those that have watched it. Another honorable mention. What's up, Datila, coming through with the super chat? Thank you so much. Let's give her the attention she certainly deserves. What's your immediate reaction to The Rock's grand return to WWE this past Friday due to the strike? Do you think he'll show up more? Did you watch SmackDown Friday by any chance, Stuart?
I did not know.
So I haven't had the opportunity to watch it, but I've seen a ton of segments on Twitter. I'm glad that he's back. I love me some Rock. I really do love me some Dwayne Johnson. I do believe that the strike is probably the reason why we're seeing a lot more of not only John Cena. He's been popping up left and right too, but I do think we probably will be seeing a little bit more of The Rock. Now, whether or not he becomes like a weekly presence on SmackDown, that I don't know, but I can see him maybe for the next couple of months, as long as the strike is going on, him popping up every now and then, maybe whether or not he has a match before a maybe a Roman Reigns face off at some point in time, that I don't know. But I hope that he continues to be involved, because I think when The Rock is involved, clearly the ratings go through the roof. And now that you got John Cena back too, I mean, it feels very much like WWE is pushing on all cylinders right now, especially after their merger with was it Endeavor, I believe, as UFC and WWE have now officially merged into the group TKO. So it'll be interesting to see what changes might actually come from WWE. But anytime the Rock is on, it's always good for wrestling, honestly. So we'll see what happens. But thank you so much for that, Datila. If anything, if his return worries me about anything, it's poor Cody Rhodes. I'm ready for this man to finish telling his story. But it feels like The Rock is like, look, I'm gonna put my own chapter in your story first, buddy, before we get to the to the ending. So we'll see how that works out for him. Um, Other honorable mention, the VFX Marvel Studios union is back in the news because the VFX workers for Marvel Studios have unanimously voted to unionize with the IATSE, Stuart. Variety this week did state that this marks the first time a unit of solely VFX workers have unionized. The Marvel Studios workers initially filed for selection on August 7th. And votes were cast and collected. And then during the count, September 12th, all votes were in favor for unionizing. The comment says today, the VFX workers at Marvel Studios spoke with the unanimous collective voice, demanding fair pay for the hours they work, health care, and a safe and sustainable working environment, and respect for the work that they do. There could be no stronger statement highlighting the overwhelming need for us to continue our work and bring union protections and standards to all VFX workers across the industry. It doesn't. I'm trying to see if it tells me how many people are a part of this union. It says you will enter negotiations with Marvel and Disney with the full backing and support of our 170,000 strong alliance. I guess talking about the IATSE, who they wind up teaming up with, but this is a great first step, I think, for VFX workers. I'm not sure how many VFX workers are a part of Marvel Studios, but we've also been hearing words of like the Walt Disney Pictures, I believe, possibly like their VFX workers possibly trying to form a union as well. And I think this is long overdue. So hopefully, more VFX workers, third parties or whatever the case may be, might wind up trying to unionize. Because remember, not only does Marvel Studios use their own VFX workers, but they also reach out to other VFX companies to also work on a lot of their content. So when you see like these Marvel movies and you see all the visual effects and stuff and all the several different companies that work on part of it, with Marvel Studios now unionizing for their VFX workers, it should be interesting to see if other VFX workers in other companies wind up doing the same thing. What do you expect out of this, though, Stuart?
I'm expecting one of two things. Both would be a win in my eyes. Either one, Marvel will stop like overusing VFX in their movies. Probably try to look at write arounds for certain things. Like, hey, instead of like making this whole thing like bigger than it needs to be, how about we just kind of scale it down just a little bit? I think it'll help kind of ground their movies a little bit more and make it feel more human, like they did like back in phases 1 through 3. The other thing that could also happen from this is nothing changes in terms of quantity of VFX shots, but the VFX artists are actually getting paid a fair wage, getting hours that aren't overworking them, and therefore the quality of those VFX shots look a lot better.
Agreed.
Hopefully, one of those two.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. So hopefully one of those two for sure. But yeah, big things are definitely happening there. Real quick, also Brightburn. I don't remember if you guys recall this movie from I don't remember what year this was. This had to have been maybe like 2019, so about 3 4 years ago. Brightburn came out. I believe this was written by Brian and Mark Gunn, the cousin, I believe, brother and cousin to James Gunn. It's actually looking to get a sequel. If you haven't had the opportunity to check out the first one, according to comicbook.com, Brightburn might be getting a sequel after all. On Tuesday, a report revealed that the H Collective, which produced Brightburn, will launch a new company titled H3 Entertainment. The company reportedly plans to use new technology such as the metaverse and AI into their upcoming projects and lists a Brightburn sequel as one of the biggest examples. So it looks like we might be getting ourselves a Brightburn sequel. Stuart, I don't know how you felt about this particular movie, if you've even had the opportunity to see it. Did you see Brightburn, and what did you think about it getting a sequel?
I enjoyed Brightburn for what it was. I don't really think it needed a sequel. I think it told a fun tale, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, I think for me too, when I think of Brightburn, cool concept, but for me, it was really lacking in substance.
Mhm.
It was just like hey, we've got a really cool premise. Let's kind of explore it. And it was explored, but I really wanted a little bit more oomph, something to really sink my teeth into. It just felt very surface level.
Yeah, I thought what they were going to try to do, which would have been like a much more unique take on it, is talk about the challenges of raising a kid who has this type of power, and how like just being scared of the kid could have been what like kind of corrupted him in some way, shape, or
Mm.
form. But
Mhm.
instead, it just kind of came down to, oh, the ship just makes him evil, and it's just like, that's not as interesting though.
Yeah, not as interesting. So yeah, definitely felt like they slept a little bit on the actual details for their movie, but I think maybe box office wise, compared to the budget, it might have made enough to warrant a sequel. So maybe that could be one of the reasons why we're getting one. And my last honorable mention for the day. Do you remember a small little horror movie, Stuart, by the name of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey?
I
Um,
do.
well, we did talk about the idea of it getting a sequel a couple of weeks ago. And believe it or not, we're actually getting first look images, Stuart, as one of the new baddies when it comes to Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 is none other than Tigger himself. That's right. The wonderful thing about Tiggers is Tiggers are now murderous things, apparently. It says Blood and Honey is getting a sequel, and this time Pooh and and Piglet's friend Tigger is getting in on the gory action. IGN exclusively revealed the first look at Tigger, which is slated for release February of next year. So we did get some exclusive images from the movie itself. And I think based off again, Stuart, this is another case of really low budget sort of horror movie. Probably not that great, but due to interest, it made a lot of money at the box office
Mhm.
for its budget, and in turn, now getting itself an official sequel.
I was
So
gonna
yeah,
say
man.
it looks like money actually went into the sequel. Like from these set photos alone, production looks way like bigger than the first one.
Well, let me IGN does say here, the producer Scott Jeffrey says Tigger is incredibly violent. He loves to torture his victims before killing them. Lovely. He also adds the sequel has a substantially higher budget. So they're really creating a shocking, explosive, and gore-filled movie. I truly think people will really dig what we're creating here. So yeah, man, it's we're getting more of people's childhood to be completely ruined. But yeah, that's Tigger. He's gonna be one of the new murderous characters to look forward to.
I'm all for it, man. Give me more child like or childhood like favorites coming back as horror icons. It worked really well with the banana splits, and even though this isn't a real thing with Five Nights at Freddy's, something based on Chuck E. Cheese, I'm sure that's going to be very successful as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will be as well. But that will do it for some of our live honorable mentions. Um, let's see here. Trying to look inside the live chat and see if anybody's saying anything. The most talented man in the world says, I've never seen the anime of One Piece. Do I need to before watching the live action? No, I don't believe you do. Let's see here. We got Melissa Benoist spamming the live chat as always. Marcelino says, I saw Blood and Honey in theaters. There's something special about going to see a movie that everyone knows is going to be bad, but they're just there to have a fun time. Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you, I mean, look, the director and everybody and the creator of the movie originally came out and said, look, guys, I know that this is getting a lot of attention and garnering a lot of eyes, but look, this don't expect an Oscar contender here, okay? This is just
Yeah.
a budget horror film, so don't expect much from it. But yeah, they made money.
And I mean, yeah, definitely good for the director for being straight up about the type of movie that they're making.
Yeah, absolutely. Enrique says, have you watched the first Aquaman movie? I have, and I was actually a really big fan of the first Aquaman movie. It was a lot of fun to me. I love the world that James Wan created, and to be honest with you, I'm looking forward to seeing what he gets into next. And Stuart, I think that'll throw us right into our main topics. You ready to go?
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
because as we inch closer to the month of December, believe it or not, we still got one more DCEU movie in us, baby, and that is Aquaman 2, or officially known as Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. We've been highly anticipating some first look images, some previews, if you will, even a trailer as we inch closer to this December release. And this week, ladies and gentlemen, we finally got it as Aquaman 2 and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom wind up releasing a brand new trailer this week. I've had the opportunity to check it out a couple times, and to be honest with you, Stuart, I don't know what this movie is going to be, but if the point of a trailer is to get your excitement level up, if it's to be a hype machine and get you ready for the upcoming movie, I personally think that this trailer certainly did that, man. I was a big fan of this trailer. It's one of those things, Stuart, where the pundits, the critics, people that have had the opportunity to get an early glimpse at the first Aquaman said the movie was trash and that the movie itself looked terrible, sort of thing. But when it was released in theaters, I actually really enjoyed it in the sense of the fun adventure we found ourselves on. I thought Jason Momoa brought Arthur Curry to life and just gave us a really fun version of the character. A lot of potential in the world building that James Wan wind up giving us in the first one. So much so that this movie made over $1 billion, one of the few and rare DCEU movies to actually do that. And I, unfortunately, Stuart, have been hearing the same things from the same pundits, the same critics, even from some of the articles that we've been reading leading up to Aquaman 2 about the idea like this movie has gotten so much reshoots, like 3 or 4 reshoots already. They're talking about the idea that Warner Brothers has almost given up on this movie, that it looks bad. I got to tell you, Stuart, from first look, from this trailer, I'm just thinking to myself, y'all need to stop hating on Aquaman because this trailer looks incredible. I am so ready to dive back into this particular world. I'm ready for James Wan to even get wackier and sillier with this stuff, if that's even possible, because I'm absolutely loving what I've been seeing here. But Stuart, let's talk about this trailer. We also got ourselves a brand new poster as well. I'm looking forward to this, but what did you think of the trailer? Am I tripping and thinking that this looks pretty fun, or do you just think it looks like complete horse shit?
Well, like you, I saw this trailer with very, very low expectations because I had been hearing all the behind the scenes stuff and how like Warner Brothers just has absolutely no confidence in this movie whatsoever. So I went into this trailer expecting to just find it meh. But yeah, like you, I was kind of surprised by it. It's not that it looks like amazing, but it doesn't look bad at all. It looks like it's going to be another really solid film in the Aquaman franchise. Something I was kind of worried about is that a lot of people really liked Jason Momoa's like kind of more frat boy type of type of mindset in the beginning of it. And what I liked is that how that was how he kind of started, but then he definitely kind of matured into a king by the end of the movie, or at least someone ready to take up the mantle of the king. And I was worried that because of how much people love that side of Jason Momoa, the more frat college guy kind of side of him, I thought that's what we were going to be getting in the sequel. But that's one of the things that we see in the trailer is that he's actually, as a king, trying to take his new position very seriously. And it looks like he's just put in a no-win situation where he's forced to make some really like tough decisions in order to, just keep the peace. And I love it when heroes are placed in situations like that. I love seeing him trying to actually, take up the role as the king and taking it very seriously. Everything I see in this trailer is what I wanted to see in an Aquaman sequel. I even loved kind of like the two brothers having to team up. It very much kind of reminds
Yeah.
me of Thor and Loki, or Superman and Tal-Rho, the moments where it's like they start out as mortal enemies, but then they kind of have to team up because they both have a common goal. And then we could actually end up potentially seeing the two of them bond for the first time, just like, again, how we've seen it with Thor and Loki and Superman and Tal. So, again, everything about this trailer gets me excited. So the only reason I'm not getting my hopes up though, it hasn't changed my expectations of the movie too much. And I say that only because DC has actually made some pretty good trailers for bad movies before, specifically when it comes to the first Suicide Squad movie.
Oh
I
yeah.
still say that trailer for Suicide Squad was amazing. And then the Suicide Squad end up just being very meh in the end. So I hope that's not the case with this movie because I really like the trailer and I want to like the movie as well.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're coming from. I will agree with you. They do make some great trailers. Some trailers that definitely get us excited to sit our butts in the seat, only to disappoint us when it comes to movie wise. But I had such a fun time with the first one that I really do trust James Wan to kind of bring that same energy to this movie again. I agree with you. The relationship between the brothers, the fact that Arthur really has to rely on his brother in here and save him in order to work together to go ahead and stop Black Manta, I think is going to be really fun to kind of see these two bonding and just the squabbling and the back and forth that's going to happen between them. So I'm really looking forward to certainly that chemistry on screen. I love the humor in here. James Wan definitely knows how to bring it in, especially the scene of him, now that he's a king, he's a father, he walks outside to pull his costume off the the drying line sort of thing. I absolutely loved the comedy in this trailer. Seeing his heroics in here, it looks like Aquaman trying to save this underwater train from derailing, sort of thing. Really cool way to kind of start things off. But you do see just the growth of Black Manta. So shout out to Yahya Abdul Mateen for certainly coming back, and it looks like he's finally gonna get his shine. You know, for some people that might have felt some way about how Black Manta was certainly utilized in the first movie, I thought it was a really cool first step in regards to his origin story, why he has sort of the beef with Aquaman that he does. And now he's coming back for more, man. He's going to certainly try and settle the score. And I love that premise of him really wanting to hurt Aquaman's family, kind of bringing up the people that he loves, his mother, his father, Mera, even the possibility of his son. And if you guys have followed Aquaman in the DC Comics at all, Black Manta in the comic books actually does kill Aquaman's son. Whether or not it's going to get to that part of this being a really dark moment in the movie, if they're going to pull that sort of trigger or not, the possibility is there. I just want to warn people because in the comics, Black Manta has killed Aquaman's son. And with him now being a father, I think this is going to be very intense. I think it's going to be very personal. But I also love just the expansion of this world that James Wan has included. You know, I thought the underwater battle and the war that we wind up getting in the first one was just a huge visual spectacle that just looked incredible. And it looks like we're definitely going to be getting a little bit more of that as we get the opportunity to see maybe other kingdoms. The special effects and visuals look stunning in here. And Black Manta certainly looks as vicious as possible. And I don't even know if those characters are like the trench in here, Stuart. But the characters that are like all black with the green eyes, like you can see James Wan tapping into sort of like his horror realm that he's so well known for, sort of thing. So I think it's going to have a balance of a little bit of everything: world building, great action, very personal storytelling between the hero and the villain, some great comedy chops between brothers, going back and forth, and some, you know, I think it's going to end up being a really well balanced movie. And I'm looking forward to having a lot of fun with this, man. So yeah, the first trailer, hella impressive. We've been waiting around for this long enough, but I'm really impressed with what we wind up getting.
Yeah, I feel like with the creatures you were describing, James Wan was just like, okay, fine, I don't get to make my trench movie, then I'm just gonna bring elements from that movie into this movie. In terms of like Black Manta killing his kid, a direction I'd be totally cool with them going in is if they wanted to recreate the scene from I believe it was Justice League, not Justice League Unlimited, where you had Aquaman basically chained to a wall and his baby was about to die, and he's like, his arm is like stuck there, and it's like a situation of, oh god, what do I do? And then we see like a blade like right beneath him, and then the very next shot, you know, without seeing anything, because obviously it's a cartoon, all we see is Aquaman with his kid in one arm and then the other arm missing. Oh, by the way, I think you're muted.
Oh yeah, I was just saying. Oh, I didn't even. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I didn't even
So
know that.
if they recreated that scene with Jason Momoa, oh, that'd be awesome.
That would be pretty awesome. But yeah, guys, we also wind up getting a great article from Entertainment Weekly. I think they went behind the scenes maybe during the making of Aquaman 2, and they wind up having a great little article in regards to it. We'll probably read some of it for you guys here, but shout out real quick for Blossom in the house. What's up, Blossom? Certainly good to see you. But yeah, Entertainment Weekly, I believe, has had the opportunity to go behind the scenes maybe earlier this year, as this is an entertainment weekly exclusive. Patrick Wilson as Orm, I'm really excited to have him back, honestly. And there's a really cool shot in this trailer, like when he saves him originally, he's like just super skinny. But then there's like another scene when they're on the beach and you look at him then and he's like super buff. So I wonder if like just the idea of being exposed to the water and the ocean again, like literally transforms his body through the course of this movie.
I think that's what they're going to go with, something like that. Like, just he needed to be out in the open and feel that sun to get his full strength back.
Like that Superman power up sort of thing. But
Yeah.
this is from Entertainment Weekly. Says James Wan dives deep into Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom and the DCU's changing tides. Nicole Kidman says this is definitely behind the curtain. It looks like this was when did they record? When did they do this? I'm trying to figure out when they actually did this interview or when they visited the set because it's been a minute since this movie was actually in front of the cameras. Um, let's see here. Where should we begin? It's fair to say it in the almost 2 years since EW set the set visit, the smooth sailing of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom has been interrupted by choppy waters. The film was initially due to arrive in theaters last December, and then for a spell was supposed to come ahead of the Flash movie, but is now hitting theaters December 20th. Thanks to the various COVID-19 caused delays and calendar reshuffles. Not to mention, the course of the DCU has fundamentally changed. It says when EW catches up with Juan earlier this week via Zoom, the director can't help but admit that a lot has changed in the world of DC since that rainy day in London 2 years ago. He says, obviously, I have to be mindful. If I'm living in a house and the house is getting renovated around me, it's hard for me not to take notice because the roof, the ceiling's missing, right? But the beauty of this movie, this Aquaman world, is that very early on, we always said that we are our own separate universe. My goal was always, if we could spin off a Seven Kingdoms universe, that would be my ideal dream. So what we do ultimately doesn't get affected by all that stuff, all that noise. So this is interesting here, Stuart, because James Gunn is pretty much laying the groundwork for the idea of like, hey, we're really making our own movie. And I guess when you think about the vastness of the ocean and how deep it is, it really is almost like a world on its own, or at least it easily could be. So this is certainly believable in the eyes of James Wan to go ahead and create a Seven Kingdoms cinematic universe if he wanted to. But I think just seeing this trailer alone, you truly get to see how disconnected it is from everything else as they continue to world build, but it's amazing as to how they build the world underwater. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. I actually didn't know this about the Aquaman movies, that like James Wan actually had like an entire like like to me, how do I say this? Like, I think that for the first Aquaman movie, it definitely felt like the overall mythology of the ocean. Like they took notes from the comic books, but for the most part, it kind of felt like they were just winging it as they went. But like, kind of like hearing what he has to say about it and how he like kind of considers it to be its own universe in itself, and that he could see like a whole cinematic universe just taking place in the ocean. Definitely, like, not only does it prove me wrong that that's how they went about it, but it shows that James Wan really is taking this like whole franchise like to heart, like taking it very seriously, wanting to really expand on not just this movie but that whole world, which I think is just incredible. It shows like a lot of passion behind this project or behind these movies.
Yeah, and I think that's another reason why when it comes to Aquaman 2, I'm not worried about it being another copy and paste superhero movie. You know what I mean? Just another bland, hey, we've seen this before a million times. The fact that he is as passionate about creating this universe as he is lets me know that there's going to be very much an attention to detail to make this very separate from anything else that we've seen. I think this is a great shot of Yahya Abdul Mateen here as the Black Manta without his costume on, holding that black trident that definitely has given him powers. Now, whether or not I'm kind of curious as to whether or not this trident has is like mind controlling him, sort of thing, or if it's just I don't know, maybe allowing him to dive a little bit deeper into his own personal animosity towards Arthur.
I think it'll be like more of an indoctrination, so it'll like control
Uh,
him, but he'll think that he's in control the whole time. He'll think that it's still all him, and it'll probably take him until the end to realize, oh shit, this is corrupting me.
Let's see here. It says, in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and the feuding siblings form an uneasy partnership to take on another of the first film's big bads, as Yahya Abdul Mateen II's Black Manta, a vengeance-seeking and now hugely powerful supervillain in possession of the Black Trident, which gives him the ability to command an ancient evil. Peter Safran, the producer, compares, or co-CEO compares the relationship between the brothers to the partnership of Nick Nolte's Cop and Eddie Murphy's Convict in 1982's action classic 48 Hours. He says they're forced to work together, but they have no interest in being together, says the producer, whose many credits, yada, yada, yada. He says there is a humor in this movie that is far greater than even existed in the first. I will say, while let me just say this. This is my I'm going to take a mental note of this because, you know, as much as I'm looking forward to the comedy aspect of those two, when he does say there is humor in this movie that's far greater than even existed in the first, I'm just right now I'm just thinking, please not Thor Love and Thunder humor, okay? Like I don't mind it getting like Thor Ragnarok humor, but let's not kick up this notch to Thor Love and Thunder level sort of thing. So I think if James Wan can keep the humor but not be outlandish with it, then I think we might have a really good presence. But I do think he has a good comparison here to 48 Hours.
I'm gonna have to take your word on that. I actually haven't seen that movie. But yeah, I do agree with you. I do hope that, well, yeah, I think that the Aquaman sequel does need to have some humor because they definitely established a lot of it in the first movie. I just hope it doesn't turn into, like you said, Love and Thunder. I hope, they can balance it the way they did in Ragnarok.
You should check out 48 Hours because it does take place in San Francisco, I forgot about it, but according to the article, it says the characters played by Nolte and Murphy bickered on the mean streets of San Francisco, Stuart. So calling right out to
Ooh.
your part of the town. It says Arthur and Orm do so while traversing far more bizarre terrain and encountering characters much weirder than redneck bar patrons along the way. They compare Wan's sequel to the vintage films worked on by special effects legends Ray Harryhausen, like 1958's The Voyage of Sinbad and 1963 Jason and the Argonauts, in terms of the movie's commitment to fantastical adventure. James has turned this into
Hmm.
his version of a Harryhausen movie. There are problems and issues a modern audience could relate to, but it's got a great quest and monsters.
That's a very bold claim. I'm just gonna say that right now. Yeah, I am very curious if they're going to be able to live up to that. Like, as much as I love the fish designs in the Aquaman movies, I wouldn't really say any of them kind of lived up to Ray Harryhausen. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe this one will.
Yeah, that's what they're definitely insinuating. So we'll see if they pull it off. It says today Juan emphasizes that his plans for Aquaman 2 has remained the same since the beginning, despite what you may read in the press. The Hollywood Reporter published an article in July of this year about the film's alleged torturous post production. The piece claimed that Juan had overseen 3 rounds of reshoots, the most recent taking place just the month before, and had been forced to separately film footage of Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton for a planned appearance. Asked if there was truth about the both Affleck and Keaton, this is what James Wan says. He says the tricky thing early on was not knowing whether Aquaman would come out first or come out after The Flash. So we just had to be prepared. At the end of the day, the best thing I would say about this movie is that it is not connected in any way to any of those films. That's the bottom line. Um, it says so Batman does not appear in Aquaman 2. He says there's that's a no comment right now. The director says you're gonna have to wait for the movie to find out. So that's interesting. Not really denying that any of these Batman are in this movie. So we'll see.
But that is interesting because it does show that if Batman is in this movie, he's clearly not there for like a big role or anything. It's clearly just a cameo, to the point where it's like that's why they did the reshoots, and that's why it was very low priority for them, because it wasn't like something they needed to know ahead of time for filming this movie. So that does actually kind of ease some of my concerns when it comes to like the role Batman was going to play in it.
Juan also doesn't dispute the Hollywood Reporter's claim that Gunn had weighed in on the movie, but the filmmaker also asserts that the end product is very much his own vision. James Wan says, I've known James since way back. We're horror guys, and so I'm definitely open to ideas, but at the end of the day, this is my movie. was what James Wan says. On the subject of reshoots, Wan insists correctly that such additional photography has become a routine part of producing big budget movies. He clarifies of the situation. He says, we've had some big actors in this movie, and everyone's schedule is really hard. So we had to break up our shooting schedule into sections. We'll shoot a bit here now because this actor's available. Then we'll do another shoot because this guy's available. People are like, oh, they're doing a whole bunch of different shoots. No, we've actually combined them all together. It's actually not that many number of days at all. Trying to give some clarity on the number of reshoots that's been going on.
Okay, so that honestly, I buy this. That it's a good explanation. I just wonder why they took so long to like comment on this, because this is something that people on Twitter have been like talking about for a while. Like, oh, the reshoots. This is just proof that this movie's just a disaster.
Let's see. He says regarding the Heard's remarks about her role in Amber Heard's role in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Juan insists that he's always intended the focus of the second movie to be a relationship between Arthur and Orm, and not between Arthur and Mera, as was the case in the 2018 movie. The director says, I always pitched this to everyone from the get-go. The first Aquaman was Arthur and Mera's journey. The second movie is going to be Arthur and Orm. So the first was a romance action adventure. The second one is a bromance action adventure movie. We'll leave it at that. So it looks very much like Patrick Wilson and Jason film for sure.
All right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. Let's see here. I'm trying to see if there's any other cool comments that he winds up bringing up. I love this design here. This is Patrick Wilson's Orm. Looks like they've got some pieces. He says, one of the funniest things for me about this movie is designing the Lost Kingdom. We see what the Lost Kingdom is. We see this society, and within it, we see the vehicles and the toys and the weapons and all that. The Octobot is one of their traveling vehicles that move in and out of the water. Everything about the Lost Kingdom came from my love for the Silver Age Aquaman comic book, which is in the 1960s. So everything about it has a very retro feel. And I was going to say, he mentioned the Aquaman comic from the Silver Age, and here he is riding a giant seahorse, which feels very much ripped out of a classic Aquaman movie. This movie is going to be off the rails for sure. But I do think that James Wan will certainly do a great job of still grounding it sort of in that cinematic world. And look, I think after the big underwater sea battle that we had, I think anything is on the table right now.
Yeah.
He says, as for the future of the franchise, Juan believes that the second movie nicely sets up a potential third film should audiences demand it. He says, what I like about this one and the first one is you really do see the growth of Arthur. He starts off as this kind of wanderer, and in the second one, he finally has more direction of what he wants to do in his life. If and when there is a third one, that's what it should be. It should be growing these characters, because I think we've set up certain things in a good place in the second movie that you can definitely draw upon in a third. I don't have any stories, but growing the characters is the biggest thing that I can think the next Aquaman movie should be about. So I do find that pretty interesting. We're very much set on the idea of the DCU clearly getting itself a little bit of a reboot for sure when it comes to James Gunn. People have been speculating for a long time that when it comes to Jason Momoa, he may be Lobo. People have been trying to say, he's going to be Lobo next in James Gunn's DCU. But according to James Wan, if he can get himself a third Aquaman movie, he definitely wants to try. I guess the big question would be, Stuart, is that even a possibility? And I guess maybe we won't really know until we see how Aquaman 2 kind of ends. I am curious, like, if we do get ourselves a third one, is it then going to be titled an Elseworlds movie, because this is sort of like taking place in its own Seven Kingdom universe? Or is there a world we live in which Jason Momoa is still Aquaman in James Gunn's DCU? So I don't know how I feel about this. Again, I haven't seen the second one, so who knows if I even want to see a third one. But I am curious about the potential of what a Aquaman 3 could possibly look like. Do you think we'll ever get an Aquaman 3, or is it too soon?
A bit too soon to say for sure. But yeah, I think it really is all just going to depend on how well this movie does in theaters, honestly. Personally, it's a hard one for me. I don't think we're going to get a third Aquaman movie personally. And I think that, yeah, Jason Momoa, if he does continue his role in the DC universe, it'll be a different version of Aquaman. I don't think he'll necessarily be playing the same version from these movies. But that being said, I do think that, James Wan and James Gunn seem to know each other, and they both seem to be on somewhat of the same page when it comes to superhero films. So I could still see James Wan being attached, maybe not to Aquaman, but to other projects going forward. And then same with Jason Momoa.
Yeah, man. We're gonna have to see how this plays itself out. But I'm getting good vibes so far from Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I even really enjoy just seeing, even in the trailer, like seeing some of the flashback images of the previous king in the battle over the black trident and stuff. I think that's one of the things I even really enjoyed about the first one, getting glimpses of Atlantis sort of like in its prime, and now we're clearly getting glimpses of the past of Atlantis also. Again, just continue to really build sort of like that mythology of a whole other history of a world that we haven't even seen, and it's stuff like that that I'm really drawn to. And I think James Wan is it just goes to show you how well thought out these particular movies have been. So hopefully, if Aquaman 2 is successful, if they can explain why they're giving us a third Aquaman movie, I'll be open to it, because I do think we're going to have some fun in this world for sure. But guys, let us know your thoughts. Any last words, Stuart, in regards to Aquaman 2?
Just that I am a lot more optimistic about it now than I was, before the trailer. So there's that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you as well. But let us know your guys' thoughts. What did you guys think of the Aquaman 2 trailer? Did it blow you away? Are you surprised as to how good it looked? Are you worried about it? Just based off of some of the other articles that you've read, or has what James Wan said in this article really opened your eyes a little bit more? But definitely go ahead and let us know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. Shout out to Nathan in here as well, agreeing with some of our sentiments here from Aquaman 2. And with that, Stuart, we will go ahead and change course from DC over to Marvel, as we're going to talk a little bit about the Marvels and just Miss Marvel in general. Right now we are in a really weird place for Marvel Studios, as they have clearly heard some of the backlash that the Marvel fans have certainly had in regards to their handling of Phase 4 and some of Phase 5, maybe being a little bit too much content. Maybe it's kind of in turn watered down some of the storytelling that we've seen, made it a little bit more confusing for people. I'm kind of curious as to whether or not some general audience members have kind of jumped off the ship with all the additional homework that we now have when it comes to movies and Disney Plus television series. But it does seem very much like Marvel Studios is at least taking an awareness of what's being said, and hopefully taking advantage of the strikes as of right now to readjust their plans for phases 5 and 6 as we head to the upcoming Avenger movies. And one of those movies that we have when it comes to the MCU that's going to be dropping this November is, in fact, The Marvels. But what comes after The Marvels, with everything that's kind of being moved around right now, as we really don't know the trajectory of the remainder of Phase 5 or 6. And it has some people asking questions, especially some directors, about what other follow-up seasons will we have for some of these Disney Plus television series? Because as of right now, I think Loki is the only Disney Plus series to actually get a second season. I believe we're probably going to be getting one from What If season 2. But outside of that, what other shows will get a second season? And so the directors for Miss Marvel have actually come out into the news this week and talked a little bit about their anticipation for maybe doing a season 2 of Miss Marvel, but it seems like it's going to be very dependent on how the Marvels does. So let's go ahead and dive into this. This comes to us from the playlist.net, as they had the opportunity to sit down with the directors, Adil El Arbi and Bilal Falal. And it says Miss Marvel season 2 decision is on hold until after the Marvels. And that really begs the question, do we need a season 2 of Miss Marvel? So let's go ahead and dive into this, shall we, Stuart? It says, when people think of Adil El Arbi and Bilal Falal's superhero work, they probably think of the Batgirl situation. And that's right, they were the directors of the Batgirl movie that wind up getting scrapped over at the DCEU. But really, the filmmaking duo started working on superhero stuff well before then, as the directors of episodes of the acclaimed Marvel Studios series Miss Marvel. They also directed episodes of Miss Marvel. And since Aman Vellani's popular character is set to return in the upcoming Marvels, folks are starting to wonder if we'll ever get a season 2. It seems the directors are wondering that as well. So it says during an upcoming interview as part of the playlist's The Discourse podcast, they talked about the current status of Miss Marvel getting a season 2. So let's talk a little bit about that here, Stuart. It says, no, we're waiting for the Marvels. So that will decide what's next step will be. So we're very much looking forward to that. I can't wait to see it, man. It's great to see the trailers and to see the whole family back there, and Aman Vellani doing some great work. So looking forward to that. It says, as mentioned, The Marvels is the next big MCU film. It serves as a sequel not only to Miss Marvel, but also WandaVision and the first Captain Marvel movie. Apparently, we'll have to wait to see where the Marvels leaves Vellani's character before we know the future, what the future holds for the second season. But even if Miss Marvel doesn't get a season 2, it appears the directors are definitely interested in working with the MCU on future projects. This is what they say. They say, well, if they ask us to come back to Miss Marvel, we love the universe. We love those characters and Aman and all those supporting characters there. So it would be an honor to come back and explore some more. There is a Moroccan superhero we forgot to name that exists, so we can go there. And, we love Blade. Our buddy Jan Demange is now doing the Blade movie. If Jan doesn't want to do the second movie, we're still there. And Deadpool, we're always there for Deadpool. If there's a fourth one, we're also game. So they can call us. We're good. So Stuart, I love the fact, real quick here, that the directors are throwing their hat in like every movie's name, really showcasing just how much they really want to go ahead and direct another Marvel movie, or just anything Marvel related at this particular point in time. And look, I really personally enjoyed their work when it comes to the Miss Marvel series. I thought they did a really good work. It actually makes me wonder what the Batgirl movie certainly looked like. I know there's probably no way that we ever get the opportunity to see that movie, but Stuart, I need to see this movie one day, just to kind of see how good these guys really are as filmmakers. But look, they clearly love working in the superhero genre, maybe still feeling some type of way about what happened with Batgirl, and now they're like fully committed to anything the Marvel Studios want to do. They're like, we want to work with you guys even more. So who knows? But I love the fact that they're at least putting it out there into the world, into the universe. They've been doing some good things when it comes to Marvel so far. Whether or not that's going to end up being a season 2 for them, where we get the opportunity to see more from them, or another character. But I love their levels of enthusiasm here. But yeah, I guess it's really going to come down to where Aman Vellani's character as Kamala Khan ends off at when it comes to the Marvel's movie. It doesn't sound like they have a script or anything like that for season 2 ready. Just that, if anything, they're ready to go ahead and tackle this. But let me ask you, Stuart, just hearing what they had to say in here, would you like a season 2 of Miss Marvel? Do you think one would be needed? I don't know exactly what the viewership was like for the first series, but I got to think if now she's going to be finally sort of showcased to the general audience and to the public, there might be an even more of a want to kind of see Kamala Khan back again. Do you think there's a possibility of that, or what?
I think there's a possibility. For me personally, if they do what they did with season one, I wouldn't really be interested in seeing a season two. Not that I didn't like season one. I thought season one was all right. I actually thought it was really good. But it still kind of like went with that format that I'm just not a fan of with these Marvel shows, which is just being a movie divided into 6 episodes. And I do think that if they were going to do a Miss Marvel show, I would want them to either give it more episodes, or actually no, that's pretty much it. I would love them to give it more episodes to make it like actually feel like a TV show and not just, a movie, separated into 6 parts. But that being said, I do really like the character, so I would love to see her continue her story, even if it's not through television, if it's through movies or anything like that. I do think there are plenty of different things that you can do with her character going forward in the MCU. As for whether or not we're going to get it, I think it all really depends on the success of the Marvels. I think if the Marvels does really well, they may not actually want her to go back to TV. They may be like, okay,
Mhm.
now we're just going to give you movies. But if it does like just okay, they may say, oh, I think TV is the perfect spot for you. And I don't think this is going to happen, but if it flops, then I could see them just being like, it'll be a while before we use the Miss Marvel character again. But again, I don't think that's going to happen because, of course, the last Captain Marvel movie got like $1 billion. So, yeah.
Yeah, I do think that there's certainly going to be. I still think this movie is going to be rather successful.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's going to cross $1 billion, but if it can get close to something like what Guardians of the Galaxy 3 made at the box office, I think that's a success based off just the downward trajectory of comic book movies these days. So I guess the verdict is still out as to how this sequel is going to do, but I'm rooting for it. I would agree with you too. I think especially where we're at right now with Marvel trying to figure out their release schedules. Bob Iger, Kevin Feige have both talked about the idea of maybe shrinking down some of their output in regards to it. So I do think that would then be a big question as to if there is any characters that we've established television shows for. We can't go back to the well of giving everybody sort of a television series. I think they have to really plan it out well. I think if anybody, though, out of whether that be Moon Knight, She-Hulk, maybe you can get away with giving us a Miss Marvel season two. But you might be right. That could be something that they look back on, Stuart, and say, look, some of these Disney Plus series that we've dished out, they probably could have been movies at the end of the day, and it really like benefited them. So unless we're gonna do like a 10 episode arc, a 13 episode arc on Disney Plus, which I doubt that they're certainly going to do, um, and maybe their idea would be just to maybe give Miss Marvel eventually her own movie. Does that sort of then add competition for like, hey, if we wanted to do a third Captain Marvel movie to go ahead and finish off this sequel, where would Miss Marvel kind of fit in all of that? So I do think it's still up for grabs as to whether or not we get a season two, or if we get ourselves a movie. But I do think one or the other will certainly happen. But again, that certainly will be very much dependent on the success of this film. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I think Miss Marvel has definitely proven herself. I guess really my biggest worry when it comes to the Marvels, and we've talked about this before, is how much does the general audience, actually going to know going into this movie? And with Miss Marvel being a Disney Plus series, will that hurt the overall box office and maybe some general audience members not knowing what's kind of going on? But we'll definitely see.
You know what's funny about? Oh, sorry, actually read that first.
Nathan just says, I don't see it happening. If it does, we will be waiting for some time. And
Oh, probably.
I totally agree with you there. And I think that comes down to also the release schedule. Again, if Marvel Studios is very aware of, hey, we need to shrink some of the content that we're producing, maybe at this point, if she's successful in the Marvels, maybe it's like, look, we're just going to keep her popping up in movies. We're not going to go this series route anymore. So it's ever changing for Marvel Studios right now. So it's a little confusing.
Yeah. Something I just thought of though, because you brought up like whether or not general audiences will be confused by Miss Marvel with her whole origin being in a whole nother TV show. So I thought of this with Ahsoka and how that is basically like Star Wars Rebels season 5 in a lot of ways. And a lot of ways you also there's a lot of Clone Wars aspect that goes into it. But listening to what people have to say about the show who haven't watched either Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels, they seem to be able to understand what's going on pretty well from the looks of it. So it kind of makes me hope that if something like as complicated as a character like Ahsoka can like be told in a way that every audience member, like mainstream audiences, can get it just fine. I do think it shouldn't be that hard to do the same thing with Miss Marvel. To be able to integrate her into this movie and just assume that people watching this is their first time being introduced to her, but still like kind of make her how do I put it? Like, still write her in a way that like makes sense for people who have already seen the show. I do think it is possible. It is. I'm not going to say it's easy, but I do think it can be done.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I do think that it certainly can be done. Just with the levels of writing that we've had right now, it does make me wonder how if that would be if it'll be successful or not. But I am really hoping that while the trailers have certainly been fun, we've even heard Nia DaCosta, the director, come out and talk about some of the drama that certainly might unfold with some of these characters. So I'm really hoping that they stick the landing when it comes to this movie, because a lot definitely will be dependent on it. But good luck to the directors. I hope that they get a second opportunity to do a Miss Marvel second season. I personally would be open for it, but would completely understand if Marvel decided not to go ahead and pull the trigger just based off of some of the complaints and just the trajectory that their phases are currently going in. There's a lot more characters I personally still want to see. Like, can I get me a Shang-Chi 2, please? Like, am I going to be stuck waiting until 2027 for that movie to drop? Who certainly knows? But we'll definitely keep you guys posted as we get more information. But let us know your guys' thoughts. Do you want a Miss Marvel 2? Are you perfectly okay with just seeing her maybe pop up in movies, or maybe even get a movie of her own? Amon Villani certainly is the future. I mean, heck, she's even writing Miss Marvel comic books as of right now. So definitely go ahead and check out some of her work, and let us know if you would want to see a season 2 or maybe a movie from her in the comment section box below. And with that, Stuart, let's keep this in the realm of the MCU right now. As because of the fact that we have a lot of strikes currently going on, whether you're a writer or an actor, there's really not a lot that's being produced in Hollywood currently. I've been hearing like even the Beetlejuice movie, Stuart. I heard Tim Burton come out this week and say we were like 99% done of filming when the strike happened. And so they've had to completely stop production. And I'm sure there's a lot of other movies or television shows out there that were in the middle of doing some filming when the strikes happened. And one of those films is Deadpool 3, Stuart. And unfortunately, while we sit patiently waiting for them to get back in front of the cameras, Shawn Levy, the director of Deadpool 3, did go ahead this week and actually give us a little bit of an update. It's just, it makes me laugh, Stuart, like the scraps that we look for these days of like news and things to talk about, just because like production everywhere has certainly stopped right now. But I thought this update was fairly interesting here from Shawn Levy. So let's go ahead and dive into this one. This one actually comes to us from a Deadline. Shawn Levy provides an update on Deadpool 3, Marvel threequel in the spirit of Midnight Run. Our second mention of 48 Hours as well. So the buddy comedies, buddy action films, seemingly are the thing right now, Stuart. So let's go ahead and dive into this update, shall we? It says stopping by Deadline's TIFF studio to chat about his new Netflix co-created limited series, All the Light We Cannot See. Filmmaker Shawn Levy gave us a progress report on Deadpool 3. He says, well, like the rest of our industry, or at least a large swath of it, we're paused. We're halfway through filming Deadpool, co-starring Wolverine. It was a joy every day, and that chemistry is as relentless as we all hoped it would be. Um, It says right now the movie is currently scheduled to open in theaters on May 3rd. We'll see if that date certainly holds. It says our crew and the rest of us are awaiting a fair and equitable deal that ends these strikes and puts their industry inclusive of our movie back to work. Um, the previous two Deadpools were released under 20th Century Fox, but Deadpool movies grossed $1.56 billion and paved way for R-rated Marvel movies for mass, not limited audiences. Levi is taking over the directing reins here for the Pic's from the first director Tim Miller and the second director David Leitch. Shawn Levy says, I wasn't going to mess with the DNA of that franchise. He says, our movie is raw, audacious, very much rated R, and we went to great lengths. We went to great lengths to not shoot it on a sound stages with digital environments. We wanted something that felt grounded and real. You put Hugh Jackman in his most iconic character alongside Ryan Reynolds in the most iconic character. It's more of a descendant of Midnight Run and 48 Hours and planes, trains, and automobiles more than it's a descendant of Airplane. So I do think that's a pretty good comparison. I'm glad that he separated Airplane from the rest of those movies. So yeah, it doesn't. I get the sense that it's not going to be over the top like an Airplane movie for sure. But I'm loving the comparisons that he's certainly given us here. And again, Stuart, we continue to emphasize the idea that it's like this movie's gonna be rated R. I know that a lot of us are very worried about this movie being Disney-fied, and I almost feel like sometimes, Stuart, it doesn't matter how many articles we put up here of people saying, no, this is a Deadpool movie. It's very much in the vein of a rated R movie, that people certainly still have doubts and maybe certainly warranted. But I trust Shawn Levy. If he's saying this movie is still raw, audacious, and very much a rated R film, I'm certainly going to go ahead and believe him here. And I think it's an absolutely great comparison. And can I just say, as big of a fan of like Disney's volume studio, we talk up the volume around here so much, especially when it comes to Star Wars. I think they even used the volume in the Batman movie for some of their epic shots that I honestly thought were like real environments, but only come to find out that no, it's a digital environment and set. So when Shawn Levy says we decided not to do digital environments, I am so happy because there is something about actual lighting, like real world lighting and the surrounding environments that just really add depth to a shot that I don't necessarily think a digital environment can really do the same thing to. So I'm really glad that this is the route that they're certainly going. Not discouraging anybody else that wants to do films in a digital environment. If there's just a big separation when I see it on screen, and it could be pretty mind-blowing. And so for me, I really love what he's saying here about not only Deadpool being rated R, but just the way that it's being shot. I think we got something really special going here, Stuart. But what are your thoughts?
You know what, the first thought that kind of came to me when he said that, and then just looking at the background of where they're at currently, it kind of gives me a Power Ranger vibe because it looks like they're in a quarry.
A quarry.
And, hear them say that, oh yeah, we wanted to go for outdoor shots when it comes to the action. I'm like, oh, I wonder if we're gonna get some like wire fu going on here then, because then you have like all the room to do that with. I feel like you got a lot more flexibility in terms of choreography if you do it that way. But yeah, no, I think this is a really interesting decision. I think like Deadpool of all movies being the one to try to, use less of the soundstage. I thought that was a really interesting decision. Very curious to see what it's going to look like. I do love that he tried to say that it's not Airplane. I do. I do think that we are going to get comedy, and I hope what they remember about why the first Deadpool movie was funny is because, and same with the second Deadpool movie, is because Deadpool is the only one who realizes that he's in a comedy. He's around people that don't realize that they're in a comedy, and that's what makes the comedy in Deadpool so funny. So with Wolverine, if he's not in on the joke, if he's just really pissed off because he has to hang out with this guy who's like just this cartoonish, like, over the top character, that's going to be great. That's exactly what works about their chemistry in the comic books. I hope they remember that. I hope they know like how to integrate the comedy the way they did with the first two movies. And yeah, I'm very curious to see what this is going to look like, not being totally done in sound stages, which is again, it's not like it's uncommon, but like for
Right.
Marvel, that's something that we've seen them rely on for so much. And I'm pretty sure, even though Deadpool 1 and 2 had a lot of shots that were like actually outside, when it came to like the overall final showdowns, when it came to the big action scenes, you could tell they definitely were filmed like indoors in a soundstage. So yeah, I'm very curious to see what it's going to look like with this new direction.
And and I will even say this. You mentioned the idea of wire work. I think if we recall, maybe a couple months ago when we started getting like the set photos and some set videos that we were on there, we were seeing shots of Deadpool facing off against Wolverine, and there was some Deadpool wire work certainly going on during that time. So they certainly had all the space that they definitely needed. But I'm so glad that you brought up the rock quarry from Power Rangers, because yeah, when you see just the battleground that they're fighting in and the behind the scenes set photos, where we got the big 20th Century Fox logo and stuff. I mean, it does look like it's set in the Power Rangers rock quarry. So I'm glad that you wanted to bring that up. But I think
If
for me, oh, go ahead.
I think would be funny, like the funniest thing is if you get like a shot where Deadpool throws Wolverine into an explosion and then he poses for the camera as the explosion goes off.
I do think this would be really interesting to kind of see. I cannot wait to see the chemistry between these two. I mean, we know that they're definitely best friends behind the scenes, but the fact that, again, Shawn and Levy gave us some great comparisons here. I can't wait to see how not only do they interact, but also you're right. The idea that Deadpool is like the only person that realizes that he's in a comedy. I do want to see how Logan works opposite of that. And if it is sort of like the Fox universe, or Deadpool kills the Fox universe, I think it should definitely be a good one for sure. Marcelino says Deadpool 3 will borrow elements of Deadpool kills the Marvel universe. Do you fear this could come off as disrespectful to fans of the Fox universe or make them boycott the film? I mean, I don't personally don't think so. I mean, I think you gotta have a sense of humor if you're a Deadpool fan. You know what I mean? And so I think, look, will there be some butthurt people? Probably, but I don't think it's going to be a majority of people. I kind of think we get the idea of the direction in which this could go. But look, if you're a fan of the first two Deadpool movies, I don't think you really should take offense to anything, honestly.
Yeah, I think there will be some like kind of friendly jabs at the Fox universe, but I think there will also be like a lot of like positive nostalgia towards it.
Mhm.
Kind of like in the same way like Lower Decks both pokes fun at old school Star Trek, but also it celebrates it as well. I think you're going to get like a balance between that in Deadpool 3.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think we will as well. He says the Fox universe has a mixed reception with some bad films, but still has a fan base and movies that are beloved by people. Yeah, no, I totally agree. But I don't think people will. I think we completely understand the merger has happened. I think people will be perfectly okay with it though.
Yeah, I still think that like movies like Days of Future Past and Logan are some of the like the best written comic book films out there, and I will fight people to the death on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this might be controversial. I didn't think Dark Phoenix was that bad. I know some people weren't necessarily the biggest fans of.
Well, unfortunately, I had to kick Adam out because of that statement right.
Look, I will say this: when you deal with the Dark Phoenix, the movie that you gave us is nowhere near what a Dark Phoenix movie should be. I just want to
Oh
clarify
yeah.
that. The movie should have been so much more. But I walked away with the movie not minding it as much as I think I personally thought I certainly was going to. So I didn't mind the last one, but I understand the hate that it gets because that's not the movie that I personally wanted. But I thought, and I think that was Simon Kinberg's like first directorial movie or something like that. I can't quite remember, but I remember being a little bit worried about it, but I didn't mind it as much.
I
But yeah, I'm
was
I'm sure we'll get some hate email for that.
I was so annoyed at a WonderCon because we went to the Dark Phoenix panel that was going on,
Mm,
and they straight up spoil it for you like during that panel. Oh yeah, what's Mystique dies in this movie. Like they showed us a clip from the movie, and it showed basically like Xavier and Magneto, like of course being added again. It was during that train scene, which was a really cool scene when like Magneto just like I think he just like rams a train through like the building if I remember correctly. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but regardless, like in the dialogue they mentioned that Mystique is dead, and it's just like why would you spoil that for us?
I mean, I guess maybe they figured it's been so long. It's been so long since this movie came out. And honestly, Stuart, we were at 10 viewers live. We're now at 6. So clearly, my take on Dark Phoenix ran some people off. They're like, fuck this guy. He's got no idea what he's talking about. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts, though. When it comes to Deadpool 3, do you trust what Shawn Levy's saying? Do you like what he's kind of saying in regards to how the filming, at least, was going along in regards to the chemistry between Hugh and Ryan Reynolds, along with how they decided to go ahead and shoot this film? Let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below, guys. Hey, look, we never promised we'd have great takes all the time on
Oh
certain
yeah,
movies, okay? So yeah.
I haven't seen it since I saw it in theaters originally, but when it came to X-Men Apocalypse, I'm kind of with
Ugh.
like what you thought about Dark Phoenix. I actually didn't think that was like a terrible movie the first time I watched it.
I mean, look, Apocalypse belongs in the $5 DVD bin. Okay, like
Yeah.
that was a terrible movie. That belongs in the $5 bin for sure. But I do think Dark Phoenix is watchable. But it certainly could have been a lot better.
Oh yeah.
Nathan says that movie never had a chance. It didn't matter because Disney owned the X-Men by that time, I think.
It
I think
did. They did.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was like the last movie just before, like that was right in the middle of the merger sort of thing. So yeah, I'm sure they probably weren't putting that much money behind it. But let us know your guys' thoughts in regards to the development of Deadpool 3. With that done, though, let's move on to another franchise, one of our favorites, Stuart. Let's talk some Star Wars, baby. As for those of you who missed it, I did go ahead and do a Ahsoka review, episode 5, which was a massive episode. If you guys missed it, I had the opportunity to have a special guest with me the other day. Will Polk from Scene and Nerd joined us for an episode 5 Ahsoka review. He might certainly pop back up for a finale. But we certainly shared our thoughts. So if you haven't had the opportunity to check out my review for Ahsoka, it is currently up on the YouTube channel for you guys. But getting into our Star Wars bag, speaking of series in general, there was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away when Kathleen Kennedy actually announced a Lando Calrissian television series. It's been a minute. It's been like 3-4 years since I believe this was announced, and a lot of people certainly believe that this project was definitely dead and forgotten about. But this past year, Stuart, this year we've been getting a lot of inklings that there is a heartbeat still remaining in this Lando series, with Donald Glover along with his brother wrapping up their show Atlanta after so many years. It has now freed up Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, for possibly exploring the world of Star Wars once again. He has confirmed that he plans on coming back as Lando, wanting to explore that character a little bit more because he personally really enjoyed being Lando Calrissian. And so that is something we certainly have to look forward to when it comes to the Star Wars universe. Now, no official announcement as to when the Lando series will be released, but this week, Stuart, we got a little bit of an update that the Lando series may not be a series at all, but maybe going the route of a movie. So let's talk about this and see, is this such a good idea to kind of change things from a series to a movie based off of how maybe Star Wars is currently doing? This is from an article from Variety saying Donald Glover's Star Wars series Lando is now a movie, according to them. Let me go ahead and bring this up here real quick. This says news broke in July that Donald Glover and Stephen Glover have been tapped by Disney and Lucasfilm to replace Justin Simeon as the writers of a new Lando television series. But not so fast. The project is actually being developed as a Lando movie. Lucasfilm confirmed to Variety. It says Glover debuted as a young Lando Calrissian in the 2017 Star Wars tentpole Solo, which was a notable box office disappointment by Disney and Lucasfilm. Stephen Glover, the brother of Donald, first dropped the news of a Lando movie on a recent appearance on the Pablo Torre Finds Out podcast, telling the host, and this is Stephen's quote, "It's not even a show. The idea right now is to do a movie. Right now, because of the strike, it's kind of like telephone. All of the information." And he says that's all the info Steven could provide. Lucasfilm confirmed the news afterwards. So I didn't know that they actually confirmed it, but I thought Stephen Glover, the brother's the only one that actually mentioned it. But the fact that Lucasfilm has come down and confirmed it is pretty interesting to me, Stuart. It says Donald Glover revealed in a video interview with GQ magazine back in April that he was talking to Lucasfilm about another Lando-centric project. He says, "We're talking about it. That's as much as I can say." He says Lando is charm incarnate. He's kind of a maverick, which I don't think there's a lot of anymore. It's hard to be a smooth talker these days. Where's the line? There's also where that's also where the danger is. How close can we get without tripping over it? And yeah, man, those smooth talking days of Lando Calrissian might get you a sexual assault allegation. So it should be interesting to see how Lucasfilm and Donald Glover navigate Lando at this point in time. But let me start off with you, Stuart. I actually did not expect this in the sense of them moving this from a series to a movie, based off of some of the things that I feel like Lucasfilm head Kathleen Kennedy has said about, I don't want to say the debacle that was Solo, but it didn't go very well. One of the things that they talked about of like, maybe when it comes to revisiting classic characters, maybe we shouldn't revisit that maybe in the form of a movie sort of thing. But they seemingly might be going back to the well in that regards. But I do think if there's any redeeming quality that I think a lot of people loved about Solo, it would be Donald Glover's performance as Lando Calrissian. So from series to movie, do you think this is a good idea, or how are you feeling about this right now?
The thing about Lando is that he's a character that can work with both. I feel like if you wanted to go to television route, I would say that it would work best if they went an episodic route. If they tried to make it like adventures with Lando, like, basically every episode is like another, like, crazy situation that he gets himself into, because he's a gambler. Gamblers get themselves into very crazy scenarios all the time. So I think that that's the kind of thing that you could play with and have a lot of fun with. If you're doing a movie, however, you could still keep that aspect of it, but I do think that there's a story to be told about, what caused him to change from the person that we see him in Star Wars, a Solo story, or sorry, Solo, a Star Wars story, and the person that we see in Empire Strikes Back, because they are two very, very different people. So I would love to see kind of a movie of what made him decide to be a much more kind of responsible individual, taking care of people, looking out for people other than himself. Even if that meant having to cross the line and make deals with the Empire to do so. So that's the movie I would want to see. I would want to see a movie where he turns into the Lando that we know and love from Empire Strikes Back. If it's a TV show, I'd want to see it as a more fun episodic adventure series. So if they're going with the movie route, I'm all for it. I just hope we get to see him, evolve in the movie. I hope we get to see him turn into, not literally turn into Billy D. Williams, obviously, but, turn into the way Billy D. Williams played the character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you mean there. I guess for me, my biggest worrying concern would just be like Star Wars TV is doing so good right now. With the exception of the Book of Boba Fett, which just came in extremely mid for me. While I personally didn't mind some of the storytelling in the first three episodes, it was dragging and kind of slow. Definitely not the Boba Fett I remember from the Mandalorian episode that we wind up getting. And the fact that Book of Boba Fett literally relied on Mando and Grogu to carry its season, the last half of it. It definitely a series that I think faltered when it comes to Star Wars TV. But aside from that, I love The Mandalorian. I think Andor's incredible. Ahsoka's certainly blowing me away. So I do think that they've got a good handle on Star Wars television series. And so that's one of the reasons why I believe that Lando really could have exceeded all expectations when it comes to a television series, especially based off of the idea that, like, if you're getting Donald and Stephen Glover to write and work on this project after just coming off of a television series in Atlanta, like, if they know how to write television, I would think a Lando series would be, right up their alley in bringing that to us. So there is a part of me that's a little bit bummed that this is going from series to movies, just because it's like, and I think also too, the worry that I have is almost like the television series have been coming to us pretty regularly, whereas the movies, you make a movie announcement from Lucasfilm, you never know if it's ever going to see the light of day, right? Like, you never know if you're actually going to get it at all. So right now we currently have three Star Wars movies that are on tap, right? The Dawn of the Jedi movie by James Mangold, Dave Filoni's movie that he's going to be doing, along with the Rey Skywalker movie. Where does the Lando movie kind of fit into all of that? Does make me kind of worried. But I will say this: if there is any promising aspect, maybe this means that, look, you can get like an Amelia Clark again if you want to bring her back in. You can bring the guy that played Han Solo from the first Solo movie. A lot of people have been, I don't want to say a lot of people, like Star Wars community has been asking for a Solo too, but I definitely have been seeing sort of like that hashtag make Solo 2 happen. So I do know that there's a fan base that certainly would like to explore that world again. And even if it's not a Solo 2, maybe you can get by with Lando being its own movie as sort of a quasi sequel to that movie, and maybe have those characters that were in Solo as supporting characters or cameos from time to time, but still very much focusing on Lando. So I do think that there's a Lando story to be told. Again, whether or not that means 6 episodes or 8 episodes compared to a movie, I guess it really would just come down to what, like, the pacing of the script that Donald and Steven certainly have in mind. To where it does make me wonder, was this ever going to be a series in the first place? Or have they always meant for this to be sort of a television series? When Stephen Glover says it's kind of like the game of telephone. It's like the information stops up here, but as it starts going through several sources and starts going to other people, right? Like that same information sort of like breaks up a little bit, and it's not as clean or as informative as it certainly used to be at the top. So I am kind of curious how long the movie's been in the works compared to it actually being a series. But I mean, I guess it's really going to depend on the script, Stuart, at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, if you got a good script, yeah. I think that it was planned to be a TV show, but I
I think
think
that's how
that
it was announced, right?
yeah.
By
And
Kathleen.
so I think that like the two of them did plan it that way, but I think just because of the quantity of shows that we've had, I think knowing the two of them, they probably were able to easily adjust their plans into the form of a movie. So I'm not too worried about like the whole like last minute change thing, but you did bring up a really good point about how, at least with Star Wars television shows, most of them have actually come to fruition whenever it gets announced. Like, very few exceptions, like Rangers of the New Republic, I don't
Mhm.
think we're ever going to see, but that's like just one kind of exception. So I do think that now that it's been announced to be a movie, there's a lot less of a guarantee, since we haven't really gotten a new Star Wars movie since 2019, and every time it seems that they announce a new movie, it either gets canceled or they just decide to push it back even longer. So I do definitely get the concern there. But I do think in terms of quality, I do think it'll be just as good as it would be if it was a television show. I do think that he'd be able to write a good movie as easily as a good show, but I guess we'll have to wait and see for that.
If anything, mind you, I definitely do agree with you. I also do wonder if this is, we just talked about Marvel Studios, tightening up their release schedule, and some of the projects that they have on hand. And with Bob Iger talking about the idea, like, hey, we really gonna have to sort of reevaluate what we make into movies compared to what we make into Disney Plus sort of television series. And I do wonder if this kind of falls into that category as well, in the sense of like, how much money are we spending towards television series? Does the budget for these television series make sense, or does it make more sense to put that same level of budget towards a movie, whereas there's probably a much bigger sort of outcome financially that you can probably get value wise from it being a movie compared to it being a television series. So again, with Marvel and Lucasfilm being under that Disney umbrella, it does also make me wonder if that's one of the reasons why they're changing it from series to a movie. Because some questions, like we said about the Disney Plus series, right? Some of those series we can easily have seen being turned into a movie compared to a series itself. Maybe that's the same case here.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's possible. It might have been kind of like a lot of those Marvel shows, a series that was meant to just be 6 episodes anyway. So it's like if you're going to do that, you might as well just make it into a movie, regardless.
Yeah, and that might be what we're looking at here. But I'm excited regardless what it turns out to be, series or movie. I think Donald Glover is super talented. I loved him as Lando Calrissian. So if he can bring that charm back in any form, count me in, man, because I think there's plenty of story to certainly be told there for him.
Agreed. I know that it's not anyone's favorite Star Wars movie, but I personally really enjoyed the Solo a
Solo.
Star Wars story. Yeah, I almost said Star Wars Solo story. Yeah, sorry, Solo a Star Wars story. I actually really enjoyed it, and I thought he did a really unique take on the role of Lando. It definitely at first it wasn't my favorite when I first heard him speaking, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't sound like Billy D. Williams at all. But it grew on me by the time the movie ended. It's like I feel like he knew he couldn't imitate Billy D. Williams's overall performance, so he didn't try. He kind of gave his own take on Lando, and I think he did absolutely phenomenal with that take that he gave to the character. So yeah, I look forward to this, and hopefully that if this movie does really good, it may actually strike up more interest for Solo 2, making that happen.
I guess I would be curious if Lando is successful as a movie, if that will open up the doorways for a Solo sequel. But I'm in agreement with you. I remember when I went and saw it. I didn't mind the movie. I enjoyed it certainly for what it was. Shout out to Ron Howard for really saving that movie as much as he did. I mean, that movie really struggled with Lord and Miller sort of at the helm, and the fact that you have to bring in Ron Howard to literally film an entire whole new movie, if you will, in such a short amount of time to get it ready for its release. Despite the box office that it wind up getting, I think Lucasfilm should kind of applaud itself for the money that it did get, just based off of the quick turnaround that you had to do with that, and the great job I thought Ron Howard certainly did. Because I would agree with you in the sense that when I go back and I revisit Solo, I've actually ended up watching it several times, and it is a movie that continues to grow on me as far as just a legit fun adventure film for these characters. Probably not what you expect when it comes to Star Wars per se, but I think certainly still a very enjoyable movie. So don't think we're going to get a sequel, but we'll have to see how Lando does first, I guess, at the end of the day. But
Mhm.
let us know your guys' thoughts. Um,
I
Marshall says,
also I kind of agree with this. I would also be interested to see what like the Lord and Miller cut would have looked like, because I feel like maybe there was probably a reason the two of them were fired, but at the same time, I would really love to see what a Star Wars movie under their belt would have looked like.
yeah, I think all the reports I was hearing was that they were doing a lot of ad libbing, just a lot of off the cuff sort of thing, and maybe the comedy got a little bit too much. So I think maybe it kind of worried Lucasfilm in the direction in which they were going. Like maybe it wasn't necessarily the movie that they agreed to, and maybe Lord and Miller were taking maybe a few too many liberties. But I would agree. I considering I've enjoyed what Lord and Miller have put out for us. It would have been interesting to kind of see what their film looked like. So give me the director's cut for Solo from Lord and Miller, and give me the director cut of Batgirl, and I'll be happy to. I would love to
Mhm.
see what those two movies would have looked like. And Marceline also thinks, good, we need a Lando movie. A TV show could just make it feel like an extended movie. So, yeah, same thing that we've been saying here. But let us know your thoughts, guys, on the idea of Lando series now being a movie. And we got two more topics for you guys that we're going to be breaking down. And I don't even remember what the next topic was. Oh, okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and get into our video game bag, Stuart, a little bit, because even though I've honestly fallen off of this franchise years ago. I think it was maybe like the third one I finished on. Gears of War, the franchise, is certainly back in the news. For those of you who are unaware, when it comes to Netflix, they have in fact acquired the rights to go ahead and make a game, a Gears of War sort of a cinematic franchise, if you will. And this week, the creator of Gears of War is in the news as he's talking about a lot of the fan casting that has been surrounding Gears of War, specifically of the main character, as Dave Bautista's name continues to pop up. Dave Bautista has very much been open about the idea of him wanting to have a significant role in Gears of War. Whether or not that's something that Netflix pulls the trigger on, we still certainly have to wait. But I think what's more interesting here for me, Stuart, is the creator talks about the idea that Netflix has not even reached out to him yet in regards to the development of this Gears of War world. So let's go ahead and dive into this a little bit, because I did find this rather fascinating. And I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit as well. This is coming to us from comingsoon.net, as you get to see Dave Bautista here in his Gears of War outfit. Cliff Blazinski talks Gears of War movie, and if Dave Bautista would make a good Marcus Phoenix. So the creator has revealed whether he's involved in the movie adaptation of the video game. In an interview with comingsoon.net, Blazinski was asked about if he's asked to be a part in the production of the movie. He revealed that nobody has reached out to them, but he'd love to consult on it. This is what he says. He says, absolutely not. When asked if they reached out to him, he says, nobody's reached out to me, and it's weird. He goes on to say, Marcus is sort of like the Bruce Willis in Die Hard. Everything he touches seems to turn to crap. I used to say back in the day, I didn't want like a pro wrestler to play Marcus, but Batista has emerged from the pro wrestling circuit and has shown his range in things like Blade Runner 2049 and Knock at the Cabin, and even Guardians of the Galaxy and whatnot. He literally did that cosplay where he's wearing the armor that he posted on social media, and he has my full support as people consider me to be the father of Gears. I would love for nothing more than to consider consulting on the movie. So that's what Cliff wind up saying in this regards. And I will say this, Stuart. Did you start off the Lando thing, or did I start off the Lando thing?
Uh, I'm not sure. I don't
Okay.
remember.
Well, I'll give my thoughts then on this real quick first. Let me just say, I hope that Netflix reaches out to Cliff. I truly do. Simply because of the fact that working with the creators, I think especially recently, has shown you how successful these projects can really be. For example, HBO Max's series, The Last of Us, right? Bringing in the creator, Neil Druckmann, teaming him up with a fantastic director and creator in his own right, Craig Mazin. They've done a remarkable job of bringing The Last of Us to live action in an amazing way that I think has garnered Emmy recognition and even some nominations for that show. I think if you look at what's another show? One Piece on Netflix is another perfect example, that they brought in the creator to be a consultant and to actually work on the project with the directors and other people at Netflix to go ahead and create a successful new sort of cinematic world. That's a success based off of the creator of the actual project being a consultant on it. So I gotta say, I think this should be almost a given for any streaming services or any studios that are picking up the rights to video games. If you're Amazon, I hope you're reaching out to the God of War creators. I hope you're reaching out to the creators of Tomb Raider, or at least of the most recent trilogy that they've created, and teaming them up with some fantastic writers and directors. So this kind of blows my mind because I feel like they've had the rights for Gears of War for a minute now, and I would think that somebody would pick up the phone and actually try and speak with Cliff about what's going on here and hopefully get his input. I think Bautista is an incredible actor. I think if you put him next to those of like The Rock and John Cena, while they may be bigger draws box office wise, I think the best actor out of the three of them is Dave Bautista, just based off of his range. So if the creator feels that way about Dave, if Dave is doing his own sort of self campaigning, if fans have been asking for him for years, Dave would probably give his best performance, considering I believe Dave has talked about this being a dream come true sort of project for him. Pick up that phone, Netflix. I don't know what's taking y'all so long. You should be making these connections and setting things up immediately. Well, I guess maybe they can't right now based on all the strikes and stuff going on. I don't know if you can do any negotiating behind the table, but hopefully when the negotiations and the strikes will wrap up, hopefully they wind up making some sort of connection and consulting, because Netflix, you have it right in your pocket. You see the success of One Piece due to having a creator on board. I think this would certainly be warranted when it comes to Gears of War. So, Stuart, I hope they pull the trigger on this, man. I want to see it, but what do you think when you hear this?
Yeah, 100% agree with you. It's I can see why they haven't consulted the creator yet, because this they did get the rights way before One Piece, and I think even before the Last of Us TV show, so they hadn't quite seen what it looks like when the creators are actually involved in the success that can come from that. But now that we've gotten there, now that we've seen like the success of One Piece and The Last of Us, I hope that like once the strikes have ended, they do end up like actually reaching out to him and actually trying to get him to, just give his thoughts on the production of the show and his overall like just kind of input on what he would do differently and things like that. And then, yeah, Dave Bautista as Marcus is like the perfect casting. Again, I think I praise Dave Bautista every time his name like comes up, but it's so hard not to, because it's so rare that you get like kind of an actor that's willing to have so much fun and can play him and can put himself in so many different roles and do them all so well. He can do comedy extremely well. He can do a serious role extremely well. And it seems like only just now Hollywood is finally starting to realize this with his role in Knock at the Cabin. So it's something that I really hope we get to see more from him, going on in the future, like more opportunities for him, more roles with different ranges, basically. And yeah, I really hope they reach out to the creator of the game, and I really do hope they can make this show, because I feel like a Gears of War is like a perfect setup for a TV show, and I think that if they have the creator of the game and Dave Bautista involved, you have a really successful series on your hands.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I think there's a lot of potential here for something successful. I mean, I feel like Game of Thrones Game of Thrones, Gear of Wars is like ready to just explode. I think it's got such a well built world, such a great history and a mythology to it. There's just and just to kind of get that action horror element sort of television series or even movie. Man, I would love to see like what just some of not only the set designs but like the creature designs and stuff, makeup and prosthetics and stuff. Like I really want to see them bring sort of that world to life. And so, yeah, again, I'm hoping that they just haven't reached out because recently of the strikes. But you're right; they've held on to these rights for quite some time, and the fact that they haven't pulled the trigger on consulting with the creators does kind of blow my mind a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes, but hopefully they wind up making the right decision at the end of the day, and bringing some of these people in. Just going back to Netflix and just bringing in creators. I don't think they brought in the creators for Cowboy Bebop, right?
No. In fact, I
And
think the creator of Cowboy Bebop actually hated the show, if I'm not
oh
mistaken.
god, yeah, because my thing is just like, how can you own a property of something and bring some people in? Like maybe they've played the game, that's cool and all, right? But then that feels like the creators will be like, hey, look, we played the game. Here's a couple Easter eggs, sort of thing. But you're not really like sinking your teeth into the true mythology of these characters and bringing somebody in that truly knows the world that they've kind of built and set up, and you're getting somebody else's kind of vision of a video game. I just rather have the creators attached to this, even if they're not sort of like the main source of the writing. Just as a consultant, I think just goes a really long way.
Something speaking of Easter eggs, something I hope they do that they did in The Last of Us. I loved how in the Last of Us TV show they had several voice actors from the video game basically playing very small roles in the series. I would love to see that with Gears of War because I love John DiMaggio. He's like one of my favorite voice actors out there. I would love to see him play like a small role in like Gears of War, even if it's just a cameo.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. If they can get some of their voice actors involved in some way, I think that'd be neat. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. The creator of Gears of War is saying, "Hey, I haven't heard anything from Netflix as of yet. Does that baffle you? Does that bewilder you, or are you just like Netflix up to what Netflix does?" Right? Let us know your guys' thoughts. And do you want to see Dave Bautista as Marcus Phoenix? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below.
You know what I think is going to be the definitive factor of whether or not they reach out to the creator of the game? It's going to be Avatar: The Last Airbender because we have the live action series coming to Netflix very soon. And the creators of the Last Airbender TV show were originally involved with it, but then they left about halfway
Stepped
through
away.
production because of creative differences. So I think if Avatar is a flop, that'll be Netflix's huge sign of oh man, we really should involve the creators more often.
Yeah. Marcelino says the advice that Stuart and Adam are giving out about creators being involved is something that Halo, Resident Evil, or The Witcher, among others, is what they should have done.
Yeah.
And I'm curious that they don't do more of that. Like, what do you think? What do you think the reasoning is, Stuart? Like, do you think it's just a sense of Netflix wants to have so much ownership over certain rights that they're like, we just want to tell it the way that we sort of see it, or like, because I can't imagine the idea of like these creators asking for too much money or anything like that. So, do you think it's just a case of like they don't want more chefs at the table and more cooks? Do you think that like it's just gonna they're gonna step on each other's toes? Like, what do you think the reasoning is behind that?
If I had to guess, it would probably be they just assume that creators don't know that different mediums mean that their stories have to be told in different ways. They're
I guess that's
automatically
true.
assuming that they're going to be like, I think there's just this assumption that because they worked on a comic book, they don't know nothing, they don't know anything about working on a television show. I think that's the assumption that the people at Netflix are going with, and they're worried that if they are involved, they're going to try to basically have more control than they want to give them. Um,
Where's that Jon Snow mean? You know nothing, Jon Snow.
yeah, exactly. You know nothing, Netflix.
But I mean, there could be, you might be right in that regards to the sense of like, because we talk about this, like sometimes you can't adapt everything to
Mhm.
live action, right? And so maybe that's the case of that they kind of feel that way in a sense, like, hey, if we bring these creators over, if we have to take liberties, they're not gonna be comfortable with the idea of like we gotta kind of switch this up, sort of thing. So maybe they just don't involve them, sort of thing. But I think if look, if One Piece can be
Mhm.
made, okay? I think some people probably thought there's no way you can make One Piece into live action. I think you can find some middle ground somewhere, and I think that's even what the creator of One Piece said, right? Like, look, we've had some clashes. The One Piece creator and Netflix have definitely had some clashes in regards to how to make this come to life. And I think the fact that they stuck with it, took liberties where certainly needed to, but certainly gave us some outlandish stuff we never thought we'd see in live action. If they can pull the trigger on One Piece, they can pull the trigger on anything. And so I hope that they learn something from One Piece and really get some of these other creators involved for sure.
Yeah, I was, this past week I had been rereading the original Dragon Ball manga because I was like kind of curious, like if I would be able to, like, I'm just thinking to myself, would I be able to adapt something like this into live action? And so I was like kind of thinking that I had like these ideas in my head of how it could work. And I was like thinking, man, I could do this, but the only person I would want telling me what to do if I was like adapting this is Akira Toriyama. I wouldn't
Hmm.
want if like Netflix were to hire me to make a live action Dragon Ball series, I'd be like, okay, I'm down for this, but I want no notes from you, only Akira Toriyama.
Yeah, that's the only dude I want giving me notes for sure. But guys, let us know your thoughts. What's your point of view when it comes to, look, we picked up the rights to these video games or these books sort of thing. We want to translate them into movies and television shows. Should the creators be consulted? Should they certainly be brought in? Or hey, are you a believer they own the rights? Let them do their versions. Let us know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. And if you can find any other perfect examples of what happens when you don't involve the consultant, the creatives as consultant, let us know. But yeah, so with that out of the way, Stuart, let's go ahead and tackle our last topic for the day. We're going to get into another franchise, and that is, in fact, The Boys, baby. The Boys are certainly back in the news. We've been highly anticipating and continuing to wait for the upcoming fourth season of The Boys. We were certainly supposed to get it this year, but unfortunately, due to the strikes when it comes to the WGA, they have postponed season 4 of The Boys. Who certainly knows when it's going to drop, but I guess it certainly wasn't as completed as we thought. But just because there is a delay when it comes to season 4, make no mistake, we also still have the spin-off of Gen V that's set to go ahead and hit sometime, I believe, this month, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe in October. Correct me if I'm wrong in their store. Maybe you can find the release date for Gen V for us. So the ball is still moving for this franchise. Big things are certainly still ahead. And actually, in fact, this past week, Entertainment Weekly did an article to let us know there's more of the Boys franchise to come, as there are potentially even more spinoffs down the line. This comes
So Gen V is actually coming out the same day as Cosmic Fury.
the 29th.
Yeah.
Man, some stiff competition, guys. You're gonna have to choose Power Rangers or The Boys. I am kind of curious where people will land on that. Look, I already took the day off on the 29th to binge Cosmic Fury, so maybe that leaves my weekend open to check out some Gen V for sure. But let's go ahead and dive into this. This says more The Boys spinoffs, more diabolical. Amazon executive addresses the series' future. Saying The Boys showrunner Eric Kripke once told Entertainment Weekly back in 2020 that he has repeatedly fielded pitches from those in his writer's room for what spinoffs to explore next. This is a quote. He says, if one of the writers or producers comes up with an organically great idea, Amazon is really supportive about us exploring it, but the shows have to be really good. It doesn't help if it's a cash grab. So I think that's pretty enlightening and something to look forward to. It says 3 years later, though, as Amazon is readying its release for its second offshoot, the series Gen V, Entertainment Weekly spoke with the network executive, head of television at Amazon, about the status of this growing cinematic universe. So the producer says, I will say this. Eric has had a vision for what this all leads to for years now, and we've been in an ongoing conversation about what comes next. So it's probably premature to talk about beyond saying we believe in Eric. And if Eric is interested in continuing the story, we'll be the first ones in line to really work with him on what it is. But right now, we're super focused on Gen V and an amazing season 4 of The Boys, which I think is going to blow fans away. So for those of you who don't know, it does say the first spinoff actually became with The Boys Presents Diabolical, which was released back in 2022. The concept was an anthology format featuring standalone animated episodes of different characters set in The Boys universe. So if you didn't know about Diabolical, that was actually the first spinoff from The Boys, and now we have Gen V. They also say, I think Seth and Evan and Eric are genuinely interested in it. I think we've probably the ones who've been wanting to be more careful not to overexpose. So once we committed to Gen V, we really wanted that to be the next thing out. And once we have it out and get a chance to see how everyone's reacting to it, we can start talking about, like I said, what comes next. So Stuart, you hear this from the Amazon executives that when it comes to The Boys, listen, if Eric's got an idea, it's got to be really great. We're not here to do cash grabs, but if Eric has a great idea, we're definitely going to go ahead and support it. So, what are your thoughts on the idea of potentially more of the Boys franchise?
I think this is a really fun point from Marcelino Vasquez, mostly because I think one of the big things that The Boys does is it kind of makes fun of big franchises and like how the whole purpose is, the cash grab and get, a quick buck here and there. Um, there's like a lot of like, fun parallels that you can make between what's it called? Crap, the company that they work for. I can't believe I've completely forgotten it. The company that
Oh,
owns the
damn.
superheroes.
Yeah, now I'm completely drawing a
Starts
blank.
with a V, right? Vault.
Y-
Someone in the
Vought.
chat help.
Was it
Vought.
Vought?
Vought.
Vought.
Yeah, Vought. Yeah, that's what it was. Vought. So there's a lot of fun parallels you can make between Vought and Disney, and then just any kind of big company out there in general. So I think it'd be kind of a huge bit of irony if the boys themselves kind of turned into that, if they had so many spin-offs and they were clearly made for money and not because anyone had a good story to tell. It's like they become the kind of evil corporation that they were making fun of within the TV show. So there'd be some funny irony to that. So I do like the fact that they make it very clear that if they're doing a spin-off show, it's because they have a good story to tell. It's not that they don't want to turn it into a super easy quick buck type of cash grab. So I do like that they bring that up as like kind of a worry, but like yeah, they are assuring us that that if they have more spin-off shows to produce, it is because they have a story to tell. And yeah, I trust so far from what I've seen from The Boys season 1, 2, and 3. I think that if anyone can pull off a spin-off show and not have it seem soulless, it is The Boys. So I'm all for more spin-off shows as long as they they don't lose focus on the story that they're currently telling with The Boys and with the upcoming Gen V series.
Yeah, man, I would totally agree with you there. I do feel like I'm in really good hands when it comes to this particular franchise. I do think that what they put forward is something that's certainly worth watching. So the fact that they're saying like, look, we clearly take this franchise very seriously, and the fact that they only want to accept things that make sense storyline wise, and like they said, not a cash grab. Yeah, man, I'm all for it. I haven't had the opportunity to check out Gen V, but the trailers have certainly looked really interesting. I am really looking forward to seeing like what's truly going on behind the scenes. How is Vought certainly attached to all this as well? And again, I said this before, Stuart. This feels like a My Hero Academia on steroids. And so I think this is going to be really, really fun to kind of explore just these youthful superheroes that are certainly out there to try and find these big contracts and fight for these big cities and just become a massive superhero by garnering all this attention and stuff. And so I like the idea of this feeling as well thought out as I think a lot of us feel like the Boys franchise certainly is. And to kind of see how some of the Amazon executives are talking about this series does give me hope that if there is another spinoff in the future, it's for very good reason. So I do appreciate them sticking true to their word in that regard. So we'll see how it goes. But will this get to the Walking Dead level type of franchise, right? Like, will we get 8, 9 seasons of The Boys and then look up and we see like 5 spinoffs certainly have come out of this? I do think that there's a world that we live in. I mean, look at Robert Kirkman over what he's doing with Star Trek right now over at Paramount. I feel like we get a new Star Trek series announced every year. But I think it just shows you the potential of what a franchise could be if it's well thought out.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on the Boys franchise. Now that you hear what the Amazon executives are saying, are you open to the idea of more Boys franchise? Now that you realize that they're trying to do this stuff without it being a cash grab, and what's your level of anticipation for the Gen V spinoff series, or even season 4 of the Boys that hopefully we should be getting sooner, hopefully rather than later. But let us know your guys' thoughts. And I think with that, Stuart, I think that will wrap up all of our main topics today, guys. So some great topics, man. I had some fun with that discussion. I hope you guys certainly did too. Let's see here, and I think with that out of the way, let's go ahead and wrap up this week's episode with our next segment.
And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions. Questions.
Let's go ahead and bring up our live viewer questions segment here. Again, for those of you who are curious, how do I submit a live viewer question? Just go over to our YouTube page, Hero Report. You can go ahead and click on that community tab like so. And as you see, usually towards the end of the week, usually after Thursdays, we'll go ahead and post a live viewer question post. And you could submit yours down below. So let's go ahead and dive into this. And whatever questions that we don't get to, if we don't finish them all, we'll certainly try and do our best and do a separate video. But we've got 7 questions so far. So let's go ahead and tackle this, Stuart, and see what we got here. For Jessica Friedman, how do you think Billy comes to help the Cosmic Fury Rangers? And do you think they should have Cap, Superman, and Lois in the Arrowverse? I definitely think they should have kept it in the Arrowverse, but I don't think it's hurting the series at all, Stuart. How do you want to answer any of those questions?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I do wish it stayed in the Arrowverse. I don't think it's hurting the franchise per se. I don't think it's like hurting the show itself, but it just would have been nice for them to have that flexibility to be able to bring in other Arrowverse characters at any point if they wanted to, like the Flash and other actual superheroes. Because I know Diggle's in it, but of course we all know it's not the Diggle from the Arrowverse. It's it's a different version of the character who just happens to act exactly the same as the Arrowverse version.
Pay no attention to this version of Diggle. He's from another universe.
Yeah, totally different, but yeah, I do wish it was in the Arrowverse. Sorry, what was the first question again?
How do you think Billy comes to help Cosmic Fury?
Ooh, I don't know.
I don't know.
I would assume he's probably the one that leads them to the new power up, the new suits, because either they lose the powers that they currently have, or just what they have isn't enough. But I have no idea, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know how. I don't know. I don't know how he does it either. But I would agree with you. If anything, I wonder if this is going to be like a Dr. K situation where they're like trying to search the database for powers or something, or they find out about cosmic orbs and then they find out like, oh, Billy's been kind of looking for these too, or he's been doing tests sort of thing to kind of tap into another power, and then maybe they link up sort of thing, and he's like, hey, look what I created for you guys, brand new morphers. And it definitely has something to do, I think, with the powers and the abilities that they wind up acquiring. But that's the only thing I can think of as of right now. I don't know if there's a danger per se that he like answers and joins them immediately. So I do think his introduction might be coming in the forms of the power ups. Marcelino has 2 questions for us. Would Supergirl be a better series if they followed more in line with the comics? A lot of people have said that the first season should have had Supergirl coped with her trauma, and at the end of the season, she starts becoming a superhero. Others say that the story should have taken place in Argo City, and others think the series should have had Supergirl's pod get knocked off course and get stranded in the future, working with the Legion of Superheroes. The latter 2 options would have also been an answer to why Superman doesn't show up. So would Supergirl be better series if they followed more in line with the comics?
I don't know if it would have been better, but I definitely would have been a lot more intrigued by the series if it was more based on the comic books. Just because I feel like the version that we ended up going with was just basically Superman, but a girl.
Yeah, for me, I don't necessarily think so. I'm okay with the idea of it taking its own liberties. While the first season of Supergirl wasn't the strongest, I'm really glad that CW at least picked it up for its second season, because it just felt like CBS didn't know how to handle a superhero series or really make it work. And I think CW certainly did. So, I don't know if it would have been more or less successful. because I think a lot of these storylines could have been explored in future seasons, whether it had been seasons 3, seasons 4. You know what I mean? If they wanted to, you guys know I've been a big proponent in trying to get legions of the Legion of
Mhm.
Superheroes spinoff. I even did a video of it a long time ago of like why I felt Supergirl was perfectly leading to a Legion of Superheroes spinoff, and we never got it. So I do think some of those storylines could have been addressed in other seasons, but I don't think it would have made or have broken Supergirl if they did or didn't follow the comic books, honestly.
Yeah. And like I said, I think, or actually, I don't know if I said this, but I think the show worked for what it was. I really enjoyed, especially seasons 2, 3, and 4. I thought were actually really fantastic. But yeah, I just, when I read the Supergirl comic books, the version that was in the comic books is very, very different than what we got from the television series. But then again, Supergirl has always been like one of those characters who's very much like her character is very much just based on who's writing her at the time. So I'm pretty sure there's probably some bigger Supergirl fans out there that'll probably completely prove me wrong when I say that it didn't feel very comic book accurate.
No, I feel you there. Um, the second question from Marcelino says, "Why aren't you guys big fans of Gotham, or haven't bothered to finish watching it? Almost everyone I talk to has praised the show for being one of the best DC TV shows ever made, and they love it so much they wanted David Mazouz, the actor who played young Bruce, to come back one day and play Batman in an Elseworlds project." Well, I was actually a really big fan of Gotham. I never finished the series, but I really enjoyed what they did with it. I would agree. I honestly came. I think we even reviewed Gotham here, maybe not on Hero Report, but when we were still A plus opinions, I think I reviewed literally like the first 3 seasons of that show. So I was a really big fan of it. The guy that played Jim Gordon, I thought was incredible. Really loved the actress that played Selena Kyle in here. David Mazouz, I thought did a pretty good uh, Bruce Wayne. Even Alfred was pretty badass, if you ask me, in that series. Like I remember Jada Pinkett Smith coming in and having a substantial role that I thought she was pretty impressed with. So look, I really dug what Gotham gave us. I fell off though after the prisoner escape of Arkham. I don't remember if that was the same season in which that they dealt with Hugo Strange. I think that might have been the Hugo Strange season that I finished fully, and then the Arkham Asylum creatures wind up escaping at the end. I think I began the next season, but I don't think I ever finished it and came back to it. Like to me, I think one of the reasons I didn't come back to it, and maybe this was like a unfair way of me looking at it, but I didn't really care of the idea of David, the guy that played Bruce, now at such a young age want to become like a vigilante and start getting involved. You know, it started to make me feel like Gotham was then turning into fan service. I think even like Cameron Monaghan coming back as is this the Joker or not? I thought that was I actually really kind of enjoyed Cameron in that particular role, but then it just started becoming. To me, it felt like Gotham started listening to the fans that were like, how can you make a Gotham series and Batman not be involved? And they're like, as they get to their later seasons, man, we got to figure out some way to change this young Bruce Wayne into a young vigilante Batman. And I just didn't care for that so much. Like I was perfectly okay with Gotham being strictly a Gotham PD series and focusing on Jim Gordon. And I felt like they started getting a little bit more into the Bruce Wayne as Batman at an early age sort of thing. But again, to be fair, that's just my optics from the outside looking in, as I never got the opportunity to finish the series. So I don't know exactly where it all led to. But to clarify, I was a big fan of Gotham for like the first 3, maybe first 4 seasons, and then eventually just kind of fell off just because it felt like it was going in a direction I didn't care for. And there's just so much content on TV, man. I just couldn't keep up. But I was a fan of it. What about you, Stuart?
I liked the first season of the show, and then I didn't really watch much past that. So I didn't really get to see a lot of that one guy as the Joker because he was only in that one episode with the Flying Graysons, which I thought was a pretty cool way to introduce him, especially at the end when he has that smile for the first time. I actually thought that was incredibly well done, like a
Yeah, I
great
thought
way
so too.
to bring him into the franchise. So there was a lot of I liked about it, but I think I don't know. I think the problem is that like a lot of the great moments for the show felt like they came so few and far in between for me. It felt like I had to get through a lot of not bullshit because it was good, like, but nothing that really excited me just to get to the more exciting parts of it. Basically, I kind of got tired of the show after the first season,
I get
unfortunately.
you.
But that being said, I did tune in for the very last episode, and I thought parts of it were pretty funny for the most part. I did like, first of all, I actually did really like seeing him as Batman. I did think that for
Yeah,
the two
David.
seconds that we had, yeah, I thought it was
Mhm.
really cool seeing. I don't know if they like digitally added the actor's face onto an adult body or how they did that, but I thought it looked pretty cool to see him like finally dressed as Batman. And I thought, okay, after 5 years of buildup, that was a lot better than what they did with Smallville.
I
um,
get you.
yeah, but
Oh, and
uh,
shout out real quick to the actor that played Penguin. I thought Penguin, Aaron something,
oh
I can't remember
yes,
his name. I thought he was marvelous. He was like one of the highlights of that series for a really long time. Honestly, I thought the casting for Gotham was out of this world. I thought they did a pretty good job in that regards.
you know, I think it's so funny is the actor playing the Penguin's dad is Pee Wee Herman, who
Pee Wee
also
Herman, yeah.
played the Penguin's dad in Batman Returns.
That's right. That's right. He did. Also, rest in peace, man. Rest in peace. He definitely will be missed for his impact for sure.
Very much
Um,
so.
let's see here. What else we got? Doomsday. Which opening themes in the Neil Saban era do you think was the most badass one? Now, I'll send this to you, Stuart, because you actually did a video with Datila in regards to like breaking down like Power Ranger theme songs. So maybe you can answer that. Which of the opening theme songs in Neil Saban era do you think was the most badass?
Power Rangers Dino Charge.
I
I
love
love
it. I
that
love
theme
it.
song. It's the only one of the Neo Saban theme songs that I'll like listen to multiple times because I freaking love it.
Well, there you go. You got your answer, Doomsday. Blossom, do you remember the Giga Tokusatsu Rangers as well as the unofficial Sentai team and what I said about them, Rangers from another planet? Thought about them being Rangers imagined by different people, especially children. Dino Vaders and Wanku Sabers were created by someone working with the Ishinomori Game Company. Akiba Rangers are from the kids' favorite comic book. King Ogres being made by someone who loved the Power Rangers as much as they liked studying bugs, etc. Parts of their imagination brought them to life in the Nightmare Empire. Might use their creations against Team Imaginatrix. How's that? I always kind of dig that. I kind of dig that idea. Um, Melissa Benoist, god dang AJ with this essay. Why SPD was awesome and its challenges. You know what, AJ? Let me explain something to you here, man, real quick. I think you should take your theories for Power Rangers, and I think because I know you have a TikTok, I think you should record your theories on Power Rangers, man. I think TikTok allows for like a 10-minute video or some shit like that. Maybe I'm wrong. But you should honestly take some of these like essays that you write and you should put them in like script form and put them up on your TikTok page. Just saying, just a suggestion. But Melissa Benoist loves you, Bacon. Says why SPD was awesome and its challenges. Greg Aronowitz, who was the executive producer of SPD, was his first time working on Power Rangers. He was able to give us a mature season when it came to adapting Deca Ranger. Not only was he the executive producer, he was one of the directors and prop masters for the series. He created all the alien life forms that you see walking around throughout the season and the command center, to which he wanted to bring a new level of energy when it came to the visuals. I did not know that. That even the background characters and the main villain, Emperor Grum, Greg designed and created their costumes, as well as creating Commander Kruger, so looked more like a realistic creature compared to his Japanese counterpart, who looked more like a stuffed animal. Um, Even though he had full creative control of the series, he did run into issues when it came to Disney. The A Squad Rangers, Boom's orange Ranger suit, and Sky's father, while they were exclusive Rangers, Greg had to make compromises by reusing the old helmets from past seasons because Disney didn't want to spend any more money. Cat only became a Ranger for one episode by having a 1 hour morpher. Had to do with Super Sentai footage of her counterpart choosing not to be a Ranger for the rest of the series after her debut. In return, it was the missed opportunity when it came to the SPD series finale by Disney not allowing new footage of Cat as the Cat Ranger. I totally agree with that. And the biggest downside that most fans had with SPD was when Omega Ranger had to be a ball of light when not morphed. Again, because Disney didn't want to spend any more money on an actual actor, only a voice actor. So aside from those few obstacles, Greg did such an incredible job creating SPD, giving us an awesome season with an original main storyline where the B Squad had to learn how to be real heroes and to prove to Commander Kruger that they weren't just the replacements and underdogs after A Squad went MIA. The show even dealt with real life issues when it came to the Rangers themselves and their upbringing. Just like any seasons that came before, even the most popular ones like Time Force, Lost Galaxy, etc., the only nitpicks were that SPD had to adapt from some of the Deca Rangers' own standalone filler episodes just to stretch out the series to keep the main story itself from ending so soon. So cool that many years later, Simon Bennett made Dino Fury such a stellar series by injecting life back into Power Rangers while still being on Nickelodeon for season 1, by being different and giving us firsts. And that Cosmic Fury is also taking more steps into making Power Rangers more unique and fun, especially when it comes to the 30th anniversary season. How awesome was SPD? First off, Melissa Benoist, thank you for all that information. There's a lot there that I did not know about just the creation of the series itself. So I appreciate you exposing some light on that. But yeah, I agree with a lot of the sentiment that you stated here. That's a hell of a lot of work from Greg in order to bring in SPD to reality based off of just maybe some of the pushback that maybe even Disney kind of gave him to kind of have those kind of handcuffs. I think that's a pretty big move on his part. What do you say to that? Some of that stuff, though.
Oh yeah, no, I went to an SPD panel at one point, and that was like one of the things that got brought up was like the production of the show. So, yeah, it is amazing, like the kind of show that they were able to make with all the limitations and the obstacles that they had with Disney basically just not being on their side. It kind of everything like I've been hearing from Disney, production wise, it really just sounds like they didn't even really want to carry the franchise anymore. They only did it because they felt obligated to because they owned it. But it felt like a franchise that they really just wanted to, finish running and then just, finally cancel after a while. It's like kind of funny because it feels like the opposite kind of happened when it moved to Nickelodeon. It felt like Nickelodeon was more like willing to let them do whatever they wanted with Power Rangers. But I think at that point you had Saban, who just really had very specific demands of what the franchise needed to be, and because of that, like there was even less creativity they were allowed to have when it came to the Nickelodeon seasons. But yeah, I do think that like SPD was like definitely one of the top tier Power Ranger seasons overall.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm sorry, Marcelino. He says, "Oh, sure, AJ can write long essays, but whenever I do, there's a problem." I mean, look, I've gone on AJ's case before. Trust me about some of his essays. I think we've actually even turned AJ down once or twice about like, look, AJ, you're gonna have to come back with a shorter essay. So I try and be fair, Marcelino, but I do apologize. I do think his was probably still not as long as yours from the other week ago or however long ago it was. But I definitely will be paying more attention, Marcelino. So appreciate you calling me out on that.
I also will double down on what you mentioned about the TikTok thing. Yeah, I do think these kind of videos, if you're able to like just just record yourself saying all this and then put it on TikTok, that those kind of videos actually do get a lot of views.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something there, AJ. So check that out for yourself. Most talented man alive. I suck my own balls is here. He's got a question. He says, seriously though, how criminally underrated and underappreciated Henry Cavill was as the Man of Steel. The man is a freaking tank and by far the most aesthetically built Superman in respects to the comics. He is a class act with true appreciation for the character and for the fans as well. I was so bummed when he revealed that he was no longer going to play the Man of Steel. This man was very underutilized in the DCEU, that he was never asked to come back in other DC films aside from Justice League and the Snyder Cut. Such a waste of an awesome talent. I hope he returns in some form, either in James Gunn's DCU or even the MCU. Look, you're preaching to the choir, man. I'm a big supporter of Henry Cavill as Superman. I've been asking for more of him. I was pleased and thrilled that he at least popped up in the end credit scene for Black Adam, but apparently Dwayne the Rock Johnson makes promises and doesn't tell people about things and goes behind executives' backs to pull the triggers on certain things. So while I was certainly glad to see Henry Cavill back, it is a bummer that that they didn't bring him in sooner. I would agree with you though, completely underutilized. We should have had a Man of Steel sequel years ago. Why they didn't pull the trigger on it, I don't know why they were certainly so scared of doing something like that. But just a really wasted potential. I feel like a lot of people love this man as Superman, have been pleading and begging for another movie, and unfortunately, we just never got one. There's a lot of people that crap on James Gunn for this decision, that really shit on him and like just point the finger at him. Just mad that he decided to go ahead with another Superman. But look, I got no animosity towards James Gunn for that. If anything, the several managements before James Gunn even got there should be the ones that people should be crapping on, because they had plenty of time to go ahead and do something with Henry Cavill and just unfortunately drop the ball. And by the time James Gunn gets his hand on things, I have no problem with James Gunn deciding, look, we just kind of want to go a different route with our Superman, and that's definitely his own prerogative. If anything, I will say this: I don't necessarily know if I will count Henry Cavill out as Superman ever again. I would say I think there's an Elseworlds movie there somewhere, Stuart. Whether that be Kingdom Come, whether that be something else, just have this feeling. Maybe was it the Red Sun, where he's like the Russian Superman? I don't know. I just feel like there is something there still for Henry Cavill to play if they ever wanted to go the Elseworlds route to redeem him and just be like, look, let's get you at least one more time. But I do think that Henry Cavill will pop back up again somewhere. MCU, DCEU. I don't think he's got any animosity towards James Gunn. I think the animosity should be towards previous management, but definitely underutilized for sure, Stuart.
Give it 5 to 10 years. I'm sure we'll see like a DC Crisis film, and that's when he'll make his big return. And it'll be like audiences will jump out of their seats screaming in excitement. It'll be like Spider-Man No Way Home.
I definitely hope you're right, man. Um, I will knock this out real quick. Power
Oh,
Rangers Legacy. Oh, what's up?
oh wait, what the heck? Sorry, I just hit refresh on the page, and now it's suddenly it's like the whole thing is different. But did we
We did
I
skip a
think
question.
yeah, okay, I
Yeah,
thought so.
we did
Cool.
skip a question. Yeah, I'm gonna come back to that last. I'm gonna come back to that last.
Okay, cool.
Um, I think it was the Ram Jam or Peg C question. I wanted to come to that last. Power Rangers Legacy with Hasbro Pulse just 5 days away. What we love to see when it comes to Cosmic Fury, either small clips or images like Heckle, for example. Give me some reveals for Heckle and Fern as the Orange Ranger. Maybe even Mick in costume, I think would be cool. Like if we get the opportunity to see like what the full team might possibly look like. I think that would be a really cool image. I do expect another clip to kind of be revealed. I don't know what that clip would be, but I'm just expecting maybe interviews also from the Cosmic Fury cast, maybe Simon Bennett as well. That's kind of some of the things that I expect to see. What would you like to see though when it comes to Cosmic Fury at
A
Hasbro
lot.
Pulse?
Probably like a more like a trailer, but like an actual trailer and not just like kind of the teasers that we've been getting.
Okay.
Like a very, I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but like a cinematic kind of trailer, just something that really shows us what the stakes are going to be, and something to really get us hyped up for the next week.
No, I get you for sure. We'll see what they give us though. With Zato becoming the Zenith Ranger, besides being the Ghost Ranger, do you think he will have his own story arc, and how do you think he will come out of this series? Either has a morphing master, stay with the team, or go back to being dead in the morphing grid. As well as how do you see Billy introducing himself to the Dino Fury team? I think we kind of tackled the Dino Fury Team and Billy introducing himself. I think we're under the impression maybe to help give them that power up, or maybe he's created the morphers for them in their search for these cosmic orbs. Who certainly knows? But what do you see for Zato? He's been kind of missing from a lot of the Cosmic Fury stuff. We did see him in that last trailer, at least, in maybe one or two shots, him morphing into his Zenith Ranger, also wielding a staff himself. Do you think he's going to have his own story arc here? And how do you think he ends up at the end of this series?
I actually think that's a good theory, him becoming a new Morphin Master. Huge possibility there. I do think that his assignments, his missions might be more like high scale compared to the other Rangers, and so that's why he's always kind of off on his own, it looks like. If I had to assume that like I think Amelia will be like the leader of just the Rangers, when it comes to like the ground missions, but I do think the overall like kind of captain of the team is still going to be Zato. That's kind of how I think it's going to be going down.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think Zato definitely has his own mission for sure. I think it's of high importance. That's probably one of the reasons why, like you said, they haven't shown us much of him, because I do think his mission is probably pretty pivotal to the story arc itself, despite really Amelia getting a lot of the focus and things like that. So I think we got two main arcs that are probably running parallel to each other here, and then maybe wind up sort of connecting as we get a little bit closer. As far as how he walks out of this, I would agree. I think maybe he ends up just being a morphing master himself, and I would be perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, be kind of a
Uh,
cool way to end his story.
yeah, I think so too. And then last, that's a question. This comes to us from Peg C. How's it going? Hope you're doing well. A couple of questions. Would you guys be interested to see a Mortal Kombat series as original content for Netflix or possibly on Paramount Plus? The answer to that, yes, please. Um, I think we've talked about this once. Um, back in the day, I used to be a big well, I still am a big wrestling fan, but I used to watch a lot of WCW Nitro towards the last half of like in the early 2000s, if you will. And I swear, Stuart, that there was a live action a Mortal Kombat series that used to come on TNT years ago. I can't remember the name of it. I think it was Conquest. I think it was Mortal Kombat Conquest, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to look it up on Google. But
I think it's
they
on HBO Max, if I'm not mistaken.
oh, the television series?
Yeah, I think it is.
I'm trying to look at old images, and yeah, I believe it was Mortal Kombat Conquest. This ran in 1998, so yeah, that would be around the same time. But I believe it came on right after um, WCW Nitro, and I absolutely loved it. I definitely would be up for seeing more of it. I know we've got a Mortal Kombat sequel, movie wise, that's coming to Max. But I personally would be open to a series. I don't know if we'll get something like that because they are doing the movies, but I would always definitely be open for a sequel. I mean, for a television series. What about you, though? Do you think it fits better on the big screen or small screen?
I would love to see a tournament style television series with Mortal Kombat. I wouldn't want it if they did it as a TV show. I would want it to just be basically like a tournament, like each like a roster of 8 to 16, probably 8 to make it smaller because I feel like 16 would be too much, but like each episode being like either a match or a match lasting for 2 episodes. It feels like a very anime type premise that you could take with the show, but I do think it would make an awesome series.
Yeah, I definitely do think there's a place for a Mortal Kombat live action series for sure. And last question here says, what are your thoughts from the Illuminati article that the new era of Power Rangers could possibly arrive as soon as 2025? And he does provide a link here. Let's dive into this. I think I'm going to share this article here if you don't mind, Stuart.
Mhm.
Let me go ahead and bring this up. So this is from the Illuminati, saying the new era of Power Rangers could hopefully arrive as soon as 2025. The new age of Power Rangers is nigh. There may be a chance for Jonathan Entwistle's reboot to be released in 2025 after all. It says Entwistle, who is also directing the upcoming Karate Kid movie reboot. The movie that would have launched the Power Rangers cinematic universe is believed to be shelved due to Hasbro taking a tax write down. Production in New Zealand has been discontinued. Hold on, wait. Let me read this. Let me start over. Power Rangers has been with us 30 years. During most of that time, we could have always counted on a new team to debut every year or two until now, with Cosmic Fury being the end of the series as we know it, and Jonathan Entwistle's reboot that's apparently right around the corner. Entwistle is also directing the Karate Kid reboot. The movie that would have launched the Power Rangers cinematic franchise is believed to be shelved due to Hasbro taking a tax write down. Production in New Zealand has been discontinued. Hasbro sold E1, and let's not forget about the ongoing strikes due to how much the AMPTP undervalues writers and actors. Despite all of this, the reboot is still happening. It looks like showrunner from Cosmic Fury, Simon Bennett, actually discussed this. He says in a recent interview, Cosmic Fury showrunner Simon Bennett shed some valuable insight on the reboot that's aligned with what we've known thus far for a while, discussing the possible 2025 release date. So he says, Hasbro's main interest was always in the young adult Jonathan Entwistle series that had been in development since late 2019 and early 2020. This was intended to be a hard reboot, more sophisticated, aimed at an older audience without any dependency on Sentai or established canon. However, development seemed to be going very slowly. I don't think Dino Fury Season 2 or Cosmic Fury would have happened if it had been ready. These were stopgap seasons intended to keep the show ticking over and supporting toy sales in the meantime. When development resumes on that Entwistle project after the Hollywood strike finish, I wouldn't expect to see it going into production until late 2024 at the earliest, so on air sometimes in 2025. So that's from Simon Bennett himself. So look, I think for a while, I mean, we've known that this was certainly coming. Power Ranger fans for sure. I'm glad to see that the Jonathan Entwistle reboot is still on the way. If anything, it does feel like we're not getting necessarily the movie so much as they're kind of taking that premise of the movie and turning it into a series to go ahead and kick things off. So I believe they're still probably utilizing the script from Brian Edward Hill for this movie, and kind of maybe turning it into a little bit of a series. But I like this idea here. I mean, look, I think we kind of all expected this to certainly happen. 2025 is not going to be that far away. But I think it's a reasonable time period based off of just the strikes that we're currently dealing with as of right now. You know, some people have talked about maybe these strikes lead or bleed into 2024. But look, the sooner that they can begin production on this, the better. But 2025 seems like a promising time period. And if anything, that kind of gives us like a year lapse from anything Power Ranger related, which actually might be beneficial to the product in general. But what do you feel about some of the things Simon Bennett stated here, Stuart?
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense as to why the series kept going when it seemed like it was going to be ending. Um, I'm really happy to hear that the reboot is still in development. I do think it will work better as a live action TV show than a movie, so I'm cool that with them sticking with that route. Yeah, overall, I'm excited. And I like, like you said, with the year gap, I think that's also a wise idea. So it for people who don't keep up with the franchise, it'll kind of take Power Rangers off their mind for a little bit. And then for people who do keep up with the franchise, it will give them a little bit of a break, something that, I think other superhero films kind of could use at the moment. Like I think so for example, I think like during 2020 when we had like no Marvel content, I think that really helped excite us for when we got WandaVision and what else did we get in 2021? It was like WandaVision, Loki, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think one of the reasons we were so hyped for it was because we had no Marvel content in 2020. And I think in that same way, a lot of Power Rangers fans are really going to be excited when they announce the new show in 2025, because we will have gone a whole year without any Power Rangers content for the first time in a long time.
And I think the fact that he points out this was intended to be a hard reboot, more sophisticated, aimed at an older audience without any dependency on Sentai or established canon. I think that's pretty important also to kind of point out. So again, if people were wondering, hey, are we going to get any Sentai footage? Could they possibly adapt the Sentai series into the new Jonathan? And no, it is going to necessarily be a hard reboot. So again, I'm not expecting, when they tell me a hard reboot, Stuart, it is fascinating too, because I do want to bring up something else that's Jonathan Entwistle wind up saying a couple of weeks ago, that definitely perked up my ears. And I don't know if you saw this or not, Stuart, where he talked about the idea of Tommy Oliver's legacy being pretty pivotal to to their show. And a lot of people were then under the impression like, oh, maybe Tommy Oliver is going to be the main character here, or maybe they're going to be tackling JJ in that sense, Tommy Oliver's son. I don't know, did you ever see those comments by Jonathan
No,
Entwistle?
no, I kind of just assumed that this was going to be a full on reboot, and that if Tommy Oliver had anything to do with it, it wouldn't be Jason David Frank. It would be a whole different version of the character, one that wouldn't really resemble too much of the original Tommy Oliver that we got from the series.
Let me I'm gonna pull this up here and just kind of pick your brain on his comment here. Did I did I save it? Yeah, here we go. So this is what Jonathan Entwistle posted. Um, damn it, can I? I'm trying to see if I can pull this up on my side. It says, today would have been JDF's 50th birthday. It's a true shame he will never get to see the legacy of Tommy Oliver, a character so iconic, he is the center of all that is to come, is what he
Oh, okay.
says. And I feel like, and he also teases again, if you can't really see it, he also teases a White Ranger photo at the bottom of that comment, along with JDF in his Green Ranger costume. So again, he says it's a true shame he will never get to see the legacy of Tommy Oliver, a character so iconic he is the center of all that is to come. So it does make me throw up my hands in the sense of like, what is this gonna be, Jonathan? Like, are you keeping Tommy Oliver around? Are you giving us JJ? Is like, are you introducing us to a Tommy Oliver character, but then like a completely different sort of origin story and a completely different restart? How would you feel about that? Like, even if it's not canon, but their main characters are Tommy Oliver, and maybe we get introduced to other new characters, maybe not a Kimberly or a Jason or a Billy, like maybe other new characters. How would you feel about that? Or what do you take away when you hear that from Jonathan Entwistle, though?
I take away why
Why?
was the introduction of Tommy Oliver the only episodes of Power Rangers that you saw? Because I don't know, it's like there's this whole like thing that like a lot of people look at Tommy Oliver like he's the center of all of Power Rangers, and that's just not the case. Don't get me wrong, I love Tommy Oliver, and I love the fact that JDF stuck with the franchise for so long and was willing to come back all those different times. I think that is fantastic. But the series doesn't revolve around him. There are other great characters and great things in the Power Rangers universe that you can explore and have a lot of fun with. You don't have to limit yourself to just being the Tommy Oliver show starring the Power Rangers.
Yeah, when I totally agree with you there. When I read his comments, there's a part of me that's like, well, maybe he just means like this series will be in spirit of everything that JDF kind of put forward. Like he's created so much in this Power Ranger world that us just continuing on with Power Rangers is a form of continuing his legacy. Like maybe in spirit, it's going to be the driving force behind sort of this series. So when Simon Bennett in the article says this is going to be sort of a hard reboot, when I hear hard reboot, I'm just thinking to myself, no existing characters from the past will be in here, even if it's just by name. But I don't know. Maybe they're opening up the bag and saying, look, we do have a Tommy Oliver in our universe, but it is disconnected from anything else sort of previously, and maybe using Tommy as sort of like, I honestly don't know. But if anything, I would just rather it be fresh, new characters, honestly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, same here. If they're doing like a hard reboot, it would be cool to see like a whole new universe, a whole new set of characters, and make it very clear that this isn't connected to the Power Rangers that came before. This is its own new universe. And I think if they ever do, I'm not saying I want to see this in the first season or even the second season, but I think if they ever do cross into the multiverse of the Power Rangers, because the morphing grid, I think that's when you could bring back those legacy characters that we all know and love. But establish your universe first, establish your series, make sure like we care about like the characters and the world that they live in, make sure like we're invested in your show before you go into the legacy of Power Rangers.
Yeah, man. So we'll definitely have to see how this turns out. But I am kind of curious as to know your guys' thoughts. You read the Illuminati article, you hear what Simon Bennett is saying in regards to the hard reboot for Power Rangers, possibly dropping in 2025 with Jonathan Entwistle's vision. What do you think of it? Let us know your guys' thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. All right, guys. And I think with that out of the way, I think that will wrap up all of our live viewer questions. Let me just, I am going to just reload this just to be on the safe side. But yeah, I think we got everybody's comments now.
Uh,
All right,
why did we have six? We had like
six
eight
now. We had eight
started.
before. Like somebody was like, yeah, that's a first.
Did someone like regret their question?
They just wanted to get it in time for us to talk about it, and that was it. But all right, guys, I think other than that, I think that will wrap up all of our live viewer questions and topics for the day. But great show overall. Thank you, everybody, for certainly tuning in with us this week. If anything, we certainly will be back next week as well. I'm not sure what time we're going to go live with the show. If I had my way, I would definitely be doing like an 11 o'clock because it is a football time. I don't know if we're going to get Stuart to be up that early every weekend. But we'll see. It also comes down to, do I have a babysitter for kiddo during the time that I do this show? So that's really what's going to come down to this year. But we'll definitely continue to keep you guys posted throughout the week. But other than that, that'll do it for us. Stuart, I know you are still on social media somewhere. If people want to find you, where can they find you at?
You guys can find me at TurboStudio01 over on Instagram, and you can also check out my OnlyFans. I'm totally kidding. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram at TurboStudio01.
And if you want to follow us on social media, right here at Aplus Opinions, very active on social media, as you can see down below. We're also over on Spotify or wherever you certainly listen to your audio versions of the show, which Spotify does now do videos. You can catch us on Apple Podcasts and wherever else, certainly. Also, find us over on TikTok at Hero Report. We do have a Hero Report TikTok. We're also on Threads, as you see here as well. But if you want to find all of the main topics that we talk about, the trailers and the posters that we highlight, definitely on our Facebook page. That's our main hub, along with our YouTube channel. So like, subscribe, and definitely share these videos, guys. But we definitely will be back with you guys next weekend. Until then, do us a big favor, as always, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.